Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Juubi Naruto goes to an alternate dimension. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Narabilis1235 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. War does interesting things to people. It changes them, some lightly, others their whole psyche. This was especially true for the older members of the shinobi joint army, those old enough to remember the horrors of great ninja wars past. Hatred for the enemy was the easiest way to deal with their emotions, a focus to contain it, to keep them saner than some of their allies. But with some, it isn't enough. They give themselves a goal, a purpose, a reason to keep on living. For many of the shinobi, there was a simple answer, the desire to simply serve their kage and their village till their last breath. To die in the name of those that died before them, family, lovers, friends, others, such as the many missing nin that have abandoned their village over the years' search for a greater purpose for the existence, power, control, protection. This was seen in many of their fallen brothers and sisters. Naruto was always the optimist, always trying to save others, protect them, create peace for everyone. It was his promise to his departed loved ones, his friends, even his enemies. A promise to create the peace that everyone deep down in the shinobi world longs for despite what they do to try and achieve it. But even Naruto wasn't safe from long-term exposure to the war. With his Kage Bushin scattered around the battlefields, he witnessed true horrors that slowly began to eat away at those naive hopes he had created. The initial battle for the allied shinobi forces against the masked man calling himself Madara had resulted in their victory, or so they thought. Their enemy indeed had superior numbers in the white Setsu clones. Even more dangerous was their ability to turn into the very shinobi they fought against. The clones were so advanced that they even copied the chakra signature of those they copied, preventing even censors or even the Byakugan to see the false fighters. This Zetsu clone army did manage to add a great deal of confusion to the war, but that wasn't what caused the most damage to the shinobi army. Kabuto had perfected the Edo Tensei, impure resurrection, allowing him to bring back to life many of the greatest warriors from each village. As cruel as that alone was, he left their minds intact, causing hesitation throughout the shinobi ranks. Thankfully, leaving their minds intact allowed the resurrected fighters to aid whoever they fought, helping them to fight and counter their styles. Even with that important factor, the Kage-level opponents were still extremely difficult to defeat. Kage-level shinobi reached their levels of rank for a reason, and superior numbers would not help the shinobi army win. As such, they lost quite a few of their number during this first assault, but the masked man had lost his entire clone army, which gave them time to prepare for the next wave. Many in the army couldn't believe that they were able to defeat all the legendary shinobi that had been resurrected, especially after Madara Uchiha had also been resurrected, somehow possessing not only the Mankyu Sharingan, the wood style of the Shodaime Hokage, but also the Rinnegan. The legendary warrior was decimating the forces standing against him. It took the combined force of all 5 current Kage to even hold their ground against him. Many of the shinobi army knew it wouldn't have been possible to even survive without the one they were trying to protect, one Naruto Uzumaki. Thanks to his skill with nature chakra, he created many clones to aid his shinobi allies. The 9-tailed Jinchuriki weeded out the Setsu that had infiltrated, as well as helping defeat the resurrected Kage-level shinobi. He himself took out the resurrected Sandaime Reikage. That wasn't the biggest battle for Naruto though. Wanting to end the battle quickly, he took off to take out the masked shinobi with the blessing of the Kages. This was planned for, as when he and Killer Bee found him, he wasn't alone. He had resurrected the previous Jinchuriki and placed their bijou within their resurrected bodies. It was here that Kurama, the 9-tailed fox, truly accepted Naruto as a comrade and not a jailer. Unlike the other Jinchuriki, where their bijou give them their chakra to take on their true forms, Naruto and Kurama shared it, combined it, making them significantly more powerful than an ordinary full bijou transformation. Like his 9-tailed cloak, their full possession was similar in nature, a combination of their chakra to form a golden yellow instead of the dark orange chakra of the fox. Together they showed their power to dominate the former Jinchuriki, with Guy, Kakashi and Bee sealing them, forcing the masked man to flee. Kakashi and Guy had to stop Naruto from following the man down. They too knew they needed to regroup, and losing Naruto would not aid them at all. All it took was to remind Naruto of the battle of the Kages, including Tsunade, against the resurrected Madara, and the young Jinchuriki took off in that direction to help the mother figure in his life. The 2 Jinchuriki and elite Jonin arrived to see all 5 Kages looking beaten, worn out and furious. Madara had been returned to his coffin, to fight another day before they could successfully seal him. The Kages did count their blessings though. They had managed to seal the strongest members of their individual villages, which meant the next battle should be easier with any luck. They once more hid Naruto and Killer Bee and sent ninjutsu specialists to them. With Guy, Kakashi and Killer Bee's description of the battle against the other Jinchuriki, the difference in Naruto's complete beast mode to other Jinchuriki, they thought teaching him as many jutsu as possible while they had the chance was something they had to do. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki had even more chakra than Killer Bee. Unlike other Jinchuriki, Naruto had proven the ability to use jutsu while using the Kyuubi's chakra, something no other Jinchuriki can claim. Thus the Reikage ordered the training, as he believed that Naruto might possibly be one of the only shinobi alive that would be able to use all 5 elements in the high ranks due to the sheer amount of raw chakra he had at his disposal. Naturally Naruto was all for learning, After seeing the many shinobi throwing justice during the battle, he realized how little he knew in reality. He literally only had Rasengan and its variants, plus Kagebushin. Despite training under one of Konoha's top ninjutsu specialists for 3 years and his sensei being known worldwide as knowing 1000 jutsu, he never bothered to sit down and learn from them. 2 years passed with still no sign from the masked shinobi. He had learned quite a bit of Tai, Fuin, and ninjutsu from various shinobi from the different villages, thanks of course to his godly use of Kagebushin. He even got some instruction from Itachi, who had broken the Edo Tensei's control mechanism through Shursui Uchiha's Manjikyu Sharingan. Itachi informed the Kages that he was responsible for ending the Edo Tensei controlled by Kabuto, at a great cost, as he unsealed not only Kabuto's deformed head, but Sasuke's as well. Kabuto had used a similar technique as Haiden. When Itachi beheaded Kabuto after their long battle, he watched in horror as Sasuke's own head was separated from his body. The masked shinobi had arrived at that moment, and Itachi gathered the heads of his enemy and brother before fleeing the area. This of course meant that if the masked shinobi knew Edo Tensei, an indestructible Sasuke, Madara and Kabuto would be facing them in the next battle. Itachi didn't know how long his body would last, as he no longer had a source of chakra to draw from. Kabuto was gathering nature chakra with his Snake Sage mode to empower the resurrected warriors. That source was now gone. After telling Naruto a simpler version of what happened to his little brother, Naruto had surprised him by asking to implant one of Sasuke's eyes. Well, his eyes, but he didn't think Naruto needed to know that detail. He felt honored in a way after Naruto had explained his reasoning. I couldn't save Sasuke. Maybe this way, he can live on and see the world through me. One day he might witness me bring peace to the world. He hoped he would last long enough to pass on his knowledge to Naruto. As if following a tradition, it was Sakura who had performed the operation, after Naruto's requested her, and not Tsunade, to do it. She was reluctant to do so, and had given him quite the verbal bashing before breaking down to him. Sakura had mentally prepared herself for Sasuke's death. Hell, she had tried to go after him herself after realizing the boy she had loved was gone. But what Naruto was offering, to someone like the man Sasuke had become, she was shocked completely. But she couldn't say no to the smile he wore, the confident grin on his face, so she did as he had asked and replaced his left eye with Sasuke's. It was difficult for Naruto to adjust to the eye. He had to close his normal eye when his Sharingan was open, as it was disorienting when he was sparring. The Sharingan slowed movements down while the normal eye did not. He completely understood why Kakashi kept his covered. The Sharingan didn't seem to be able to turn off even after Itachi explained how. Naruto assumed because he has so much chakra flowing constantly, plus the fact there was no way for him to gain the control necessary to turn off the flow to his eye. To test his theory, he had Niji hit the Tenketsu points leading to his eye, and the eye reverted to the black pit he always thought the Uchiha eyes looked like. Channeling some of Kurama's chakra opened the points back up and turned the eye back to the 3-tomo state. After many weeks with instruction from Heishi, Niji and Hinata, Naruto was able to hit the right spot to turn off his eye. When Kakashi saw this, he looked completely shocked that the answer was in front of him all these years. Some of the shinobi world's best genjutsu users tried to teach Naruto, but it seemed like a lost cause, even with the Sharingan. Itachi stated it was possible he might be able to use the Sharingan eye illusions, but ordinary genjutsu was thought to be impossible to teach the young 18-year-old Jinchuriki. When asked why he wasn't teaching Naruto some advanced Sharingan techniques, Itachi refused to answer, merely grunting and returned to watching Naruto's progress. In tribute to his parents and Jiraiya, Naruto was taught Fuinjutsu from the shinobi world's greatest experts in the field. Surprisingly enough, Killer Bee was one of these. Although understanding what he was trying to say was easier said than done, Naruto, staying true to his family's legacy, learned very fast and was considered a prodigy by the field's best. Shocking all those that knew him well, as Fuinjutsu was considered one of the most complex of ninja arts. Taijutsu showed great improvements. He trained with resistance seals now. His strength and speed were drastically increasing each day. Thanks to the regeneration of Kurama, he didn't even need to rest. Naruto surprised his trainers, however, by mixing the styles he learned together to match any situation during sparring. It frankly shocked many taijutsu experts, as they thought he was a genius. But really, he was used to improvising on the spot. Guy even taught him how to open the first gate, to teach him the lotus. From that, Naruto somehow figured out from that how to activate the second gate on his own, but didn't try to go any further. Ninjutsu training ironically ended up mainly being his former sensei Kakashi, who might not have been able to perform all the ninjutsu he had copied over the years due to the amount of chakra required, but he could show Naruto the hand signs while explaining what each did. Itachi also helped out in this department, and the Sharingan did wonders at memorizing the hand seals of many of the ninjutsu experts of the shinobi army. Wind and fire were his strongest affinities, while the other three required a much larger chunk of chakra to perform. He felt kind of dirty with learning fire techniques, since it is what the Uchiha clan were famous for. At the same time, he felt honored that he had an affinity similar to his old friend. That thought alone made the blonde giddy in anticipation. The third year since the end of the great battle finally had the masked shinobi strike again, this time with an even larger Zetsu army. The allied forces were hard-pressed, and their numbers started to drop one by one. With great reluctance, the Raikage once again decided to let the remaining two Jinchuriki fight, since it appeared they wouldn't win this battle without severe losses. His decision proved to be foolish in the end. As soon as they arrived on the battlefield, they were shocked when B was seemingly pulled by some great force at an insane velocity to the waiting arm of the masked man, then taken away by the same teleportation jutsu the dark-skinned leader had seen Madara use at the Kage summit. They had all felt the wave of chakra and explosions in the distance. Naruto, having begun thinking of B as his brother during their long time together, took out hordes of Zetsu with a few clones pumping out insanely powerful ninjutsu. It had many of the lower-ranked shinobi nervous, thinking that once the war was over, would the villages split again, thus making this boy the greatest threat in the history of the elemental nations, and to each of their villages. Naruto, once done with his duty in defending those he cared for, launched towards the area of the battle, ignoring everyone's pleas for him to stay. With his mastered Kyuubi enhanced form while in Sage mode, Naruto could move at speeds close to the Hiraishin. Not even the Raikage with his lightning aura could match him in speed. Reaching the battle, he saw B unconscious on the ground behind Madara and Sasuke. One pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and another pair of Rinnegan eyes looked coolly at him. Ah, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I can see you have improved greatly. My eyes can see the confidence and experience. I do hope you proved more capable than that fool, Madara stated, throwing his head back slightly to indicate B. Naruto growled lowly at the statement, and his right eye widened, his left being covered with his headband, when he saw the masked man materialize in front of B's body. Get away from him, Naruto roared, his bijou cloak flaring out, pushing a powerful wind in their direction, his voice far more feral in nature. Brother, Sasuke, take him down, soon it will all be over. The Uchiha clan will rule the world at last. Kabuto and I shall extract the Hachibi using Edo Tensei, the masked man stated in a cheerful tone before he and B vanished in a warp. Naruto, still in his enhanced form, snarled. He deactivated his Sage mode for the moment to converse its use for later. Brother? What the hell did he mean, brother? No matter, look at you two, the mighty Uchiha clan reduced to pawns to a man. Madara began chuckling darkly. You mean it hasn't been figured out yet? Only one Uchiha was as skilled as me. His body vanished the night I took his eyes. Naruto's eyes widened after remembering Itachi explaining the story. Yes, boy, that was my younger brother, Izuna. Do you know how he is still alive? No? Once the Juubi is formed, I will be given new life and the Uchiha clan will once more rule the world. Naruto's eye widened once more at the revelation, and the eye flickered over to the man he once called his brother. Sasuke stood there calmly, and raised his eyebrows in curiosity, noticing his former comrade's headband. It's been a while, though. Getting fashion tips from Kakashi? So you stole something from the Uchiha clan too, huh? You two realize how great we are. I thought you were different, but you're just like them. I hear you're Konoha's hero, then you will be the first step to making them suffer. Goodbye, Naruto, Susanoo. A great chakra surged forth and enveloped Sasuke, taking the shape of a giant purple demonic humanoid being, with a strangely shaped bow that was large enough to act as a shield. Naruto said nothing. He had made a promise to Itachi before he dissolved. He would purify Sasuke. He merely lifted his headband and opened his left eye and closed his right, his Sharingan eye glaring at his former friend. A Kage Bunshin seamlessly popped into existence next to him, and he formed a Raisin Shuriken. Sasuke's eyes widened when the clone blew a stream of fire into it. Sasuke Uchiha is dead. He died long before this war. He died years ago. He died the day he abandoned Konoha. I'm not a naive child anymore, Sasuke. Everyone was right, while I was just foolish. I realize that now. I'm sorry I failed you, Sasuke. Goodbye, brother. Inferno Raisin Shuriken. He tossed the red Raisin Shuriken straight towards Sasuke, who merely brought the bow up to block the odd shuriken-shaped jutsu. His eyes widened when the jutsu hit the shield and expanded outwards, the strange chakra human taking the hit. Madara whistled when it hit. The sight was impressive. A large dome formed. Red chakra needles infused with fire chakra rained down on the young Uchiha within a raging inferno of fire. Dust was kicked up from the attack, making it difficult to see if he had succeeded. Even if he did, Naruto knew Sasuke would reform soon enough. Madara was the greater threat. Naruto stood calmly before his eye switched to Madara, who raised one eyebrow. No word needed to be said between them. They both vanished in a blur and began a fierce taijutsu battle. Bangs seemed to erupt in the area from many locations. In reality, it was the sounds of each blow being blocked or parried. Shinra Tensei Madara roared, blasting the Jinchuriki back. Impressive taijutsu for one so young, and excellent use of the Sharingan. It won't be enough though. The man took off towards the flying yellow figure before it vanished in a poof of smoke. A clone. He was suddenly grabbed from behind. Boom! Madara got a smirk before he exploded into wood pieces that dispelled another shadow clone. Madara rose out of the earth a moment later, a short distance away. Yes, I was told you love clones, so do I. Taju Mokutan Bushin. Multiple stumps formed on Madara's form before rapidly growing and becoming exact replicas. 50 of them total. Let us see which clones are more durable, shall we, boy? Earth release. Great divide. 4 large sections of earth rose to surround the large group of Madaras, who immediately began their own hand signs. Water release. Water pressure wave. Lightning release. Bolt stream collaboration technique. Lightning bath. Naruto knew from talking to the Kages, Madara wouldn't even consider that a warm-up, but it was only to distract him briefly. He was finishing off a complex array of seals onto 4 IWA Bushin he had created earlier. Done. Hopefully he still underestimates me. Wood release. Deep forest creation was heard as masses of roots burst through the rock walls. Many Madara wood clones began to burst through the gaps formed. Taju Kaigebushin 500 shadow clones burst into existence around Naruto and leapt against the smaller number of Madara wood clones. Jutsu was flying all around. Due to them all being clones, they didn't bother holding back at all, so explosions were going off all around. Naruto and the IWA clones charged towards the real Madara and began a renewed taijutsu battle. This time there were wind blades, hardened fists infused with earth release, and Madara even set a clone alight with his Amaterasu. Enough of this farce. Suddenly rocks began to rise from the debris of the field high in the sky, then collide together, forming a massive ball of rock above the fierce battle. Take this, the meteor erupted into the black flames of Amaterasu and began descending fast, right towards himself and the real Naruto. Madara underestimated Naruto, expecting him to halt to see the attack. The IWA Bushin latched onto him and Naruto sped through the 10 required hand signs. FUIN Madara gaped openly as he was sealed a moment later. Naruto channeled chakra to his legs and feet, grabbed the sealed rock containing Madara, tossed it as hard as he could in the direction of the army, and bolted out of the area. Skidding just as the massive flaming chunk of rock smashed into the earth, dispelling all of his clones, he panted slightly as the exhaustion from its use. Then he calmed himself and activated Sage Mode. His eye widened as he saw it happen just before it did, but he wasn't quick enough to react. A large purple arrow pierced his stomach. How could he have forgotten Sasuke? The insane laughing giving him flashbacks of the last time they met years ago. Sasuke stood up cackling madly to himself as the giant chakra beast was regenerating until it was complete once more, armor and all. You are still a dope. Madara thought they were training you. I guess he was wrong if that is the best you can do. Just like every fight you've been in, you beat him because you got lucky. Lucky he didn't notice what you were planning before he fired off an arrow that Naruto barely avoided. But you just used your ace in the hole. What do you plan to do about me, huh? Naruto was staring in shock at the fact the arrow was still lodged in his stomach, and he didn't seem to be able to yank it out, even with Sage Mode and Kurama's chakra flowing through him. More than that was the fact the arrow had come at him faster than anything he had seen, easily matching his speed. He barely was able to dodge the second one that was fired. One of the next 5 connected with him though, and again he was unable to remove it from his thigh. Coughing up blood, he looked up just in time to see Sasuke giving him a sad look. Not good enough, Naruto. Goodbye, brother, and bringing down the bow like a sword and slamming into him. Then his world went black. Naruto groaned when he woke up, noticing he was inside his mindscape on Kurama's head. You just had to get cocky, didn't you, boy? Underestimating your opponent that much? Did you forget he was able to take down that rapping fool and survive an encounter with all 5 Kages as well? Not to mention you should have realized he could have reformed quicker than the report stated. That other Uchiha has had 3 years to plan this assault. Naruto merely responded with a stupid fox. How was I meant to take that into account? I thought I had another 30 seconds at least to prepare to take down Sasuke. The mighty fox let out a loud roar. What did I just say? Are you really that stupid? Here I am, starting to realize that you might be a worthy host, then you say something stupid like that. Now I'm about to get sucked out of you and forced to become one with the others again. Meanwhile you will die because of your stupidity. Naruto threw his hands up in the air. Then what the fuck am I meant to do then, Hakurama? I've already lost. The shinobi world has lost. I might have fucked up, but there's nothing I can do, so stop bitching like Sakura in her fangirl phase. The Kyuubi let out another roar. You think I want this, to join with the others again? Shut your mouth and think for a change, you fool. Wait, what did we do to further enhance our union? Looking at the strongest Bijou in confusion, Naruto snorted. What would wait? No, all that would do is likely just speed things up, or what if it? The Kyuubi let out a sigh, knowing that he would fuse with the others one way or the other. The mighty beast would much rather serve an idiot than who he believed the masked shinobi to be. We are now connected, a soul bond if you will. Perhaps we can use that to bring the other 8 to us instead, although it would probably kill us both. The combined powers of all 9 of us Bijou would likely destroy your body. With luck the backlash will kill that bastard Uchiha though. He would need to be solid to perform the technique, meaning vulnerable. Pausing, the mighty Kitsune let out another roar. As much as I don't want to be a part of that damn raging beast again, it's going to happen anyway. I'd rather die being bound in an idiot like you than serving that bastard Uchiha like a pet after I combine with the others. The Uchiha have caused both of us grief over the years. I think it's time to mess up their plans. It's wrong, being able to control even a being as great as me with nothing but a glare. You never thought to use me as a tool, even after you got that damn eye. For that at least, I have grown to not want to rip you apart on sight. Best case scenario, it frees the other Bijou at once. Naruto stared up in shock at the Kyuubi before he sat down and let out a sigh. But you are linked to me. If my body dies, so would you. But you still want to do this, don't you, Kurama? Sigh, this isn't how I wanted to be remembered, but hey, I already proved I'm the strongest shinobi ever. Hee. Sitting back and just quitting was never my style. So let's see what fate has in store for us. Hey, you great furry bastard. The mighty fox chuckled. Naruto looked shocked since he only ever heard the evil cackle from the beast in the past. Yes, I too am curious to see what will happen to us. In a way, we Bijou should never have been born into this world in the first place. That old fool never told us how the Juubi was formed, just that we were born from it. If I somehow survive, I will protect your precious people in your stead. You have my word. The beast roared again, and seemed to be in great pain. Fuck, that hurts. Worse than your mother's steaks. Well, now it's just a mind game. Let's win this, Naruto. Naruto gazed at the Kyuubi with a smirk before nodding. Walking over to him, he placed his hand on his snout. The mightiest of the 9 bijou muttered out, "Thank you, brat. For what it's worth, I'm glad you were the one chosen 18 years ago. I hate to admit it, but you could have wiped my existence when we fused our chakra. That damn red-eyed freak plans to do just that, I'm sure." The beast closed his eyes and began to glow. Meanwhile, outside the seal. "Ha ha ha, finally I have all 9, with my brother sealed. Once the Juubi is formed, I will become the new Jinchuriki of the Juubi and bring this world to its knees. They will forget all out Madara Uchiha. Izuna Uchiha will be cemented in history." Izuna happily gloated. 9 chakra dragons burst forth and connected with Naruto's body, causing it to lift in the air. His mouth and eyes opened and began to glow. Small amounts of red chakra began to leak out of the body into the dragons and flowing towards the statue. Sasuke looked over at him and impassively stated, "What do you mean? You told me you were going to cast a genjutsu on the moon to bring peace." Izuna continued to laugh. "Peace? I once thought like that. I was considered the weaker brother because of it. Now look at where I am. Why would I want peace to a world that has wronged me? I am an avenger just like you, Sasuke. But I have waited far longer to get my revenge. All will suffer, all will die. I will be a god while the rest of the world will lay dead at my feet. The Juubi is too powerful to be controlled by any Kekai Genkai, and with my Sharingan and Rinnegan, I would be unstoppable, ha ha ha." Sasuke narrowed his eyes but said nothing, not that he could do anything in his body right now. As Naruto said, he's already dead, powerless to do anything but watch. This man had outlived his time. If Sasuke had survived, he would have surpassed him, and the Juubi would have been his to use for his vengeance. Now, he was nothing but a puppet, a tool to be used, and he could do nothing to stop it. He kind of wished Naruto had beaten him. Perhaps he would see his family on the other side. Izuna suddenly stopped laughing when Naruto's body became shrouded with his odd yellow bijou cloak. Izuna found this strange, as no other Jinchuriki he had witnessed over the years ever took on such an odd form when using their bijou. There was mild rumbling coming from the statue containing the 8 bijou. "What is this? It is like he is fighting the pull of the statue. This should be impossible," he stated seriously. His eyes widened when the yellow chakra followed the red chakra to the statue eye. Suddenly all 9 eyes opened at once and the chakra flows suddenly changed direction and began heading towards the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He shouted out, "What, and oh, what trickery is this?" Each of the 9 dragons now took on a color representing each bijou. Izuna, fearing the result, tried to cancel the jutsu with his Rinnegan eye, but nothing happened. The rumbling just got louder and the chakra flow got faster. His eyes then noticed the seals that were on Naruto's cloak form became more defined and each began to glow a different color, each matching the chakra dragons. "What is happening? Is he?" "No and no." The 9 dragons then left the statue completely and the last of the chakra went into Naruto. Nothing happened and Izuna stared in disbelief for a moment. Then the seals on Naruto's form started to glow silver. It began to get brighter and brighter. Then suddenly the glowing stopped. The cloak faded and the body dropped to the floor of the chamber. Laughter reigned suddenly in the chamber and both Uchihas turned to see Kakashi, the Reikyu, Guy and Itachi, Sharingan ablaze. It was clear that A was the one that laughed. "That brat really is the most unpredictable shinobi, isn't he, even in defeat?" Somehow he pulled out a winner, then activated his lightning armor. Kakashi unveiled his Sharingan, and Guy was already in his 7th gate mode. Izuna let out a loud roar in frustration before he activated his Manjiki Sharingan, and used Kamui on the nuisance that had ruined his plans, making him disappear forever. Naruto Kakashi roared, but Guy beat him and slammed a fist that went straight through Izuna's stomach. Kakashi finished him off with a Raikiri through his heart. Performed a lariat on Sasuke, beheading him before he could react as he was focused on Itachi. "Goodbye, foolish little brother," was what Sasuke read with his Sharingan eye as Itachi beheaded Kabuto, who was trying to make an escape. Now he was free from Izuna's control. With Naruto. When Naruto opened his eyes, he found himself on his back in an open field. Confused at where he was, he stood up and gazed around cautiously. The place looked completely barren. He gasped when he looked up to the dark cloudy sky to see a red moon. Well, more like a giant eye that looked to be projecting a combination of the Rinnegan and Sharingan. 3 tomos on each Rinnegan line spinning wildly. Then he heard a mighty roar from behind. Gulping, he slowly turning around to see a massive 4-limbed creature. Although it was sitting on its hind legs, its body shape seemed very similar to Kuruma's. The head, like the rest of the body, was shadowed by the darkness. But Naruto could make horns protruding out the back of it. But the significant feature he saw were the 10 tails swishing behind it. "Well, fuck me," Naruto muttered to himself as the beast seemed to grin widely at hearing this, showing off rows of razor-sharp teeth. Again similar to Kurama when he's being a furry bastard. Suddenly its eye opened and Naruto blinked a few times, as it was basically a red Rinnegan with 3 tomo on each line like the moon in the sky. Hi there, big fella." The beast let out another feral roar before looking at Naruto again. "Well, this was unexpected. It would appear we all survived." Naruto's blinked at the familiar tone in the beast's voice. "Kurama, that you?" The beast roared again. "Sort of, not really, I guess." "Arg fucking Shikaku, crazy bastard is messing up our mind. I am the Juubi, so no, I'm not Kurama, completely. However, looking at the memories I contain, you are most familiar with Kurama and Gyuki, but you have come into contact with the others. But you may continue calling me one of these if you wish, unless I think of a more fitting name." He gazed around the area they were in before he continued. "Interesting, no cage, but different to the fusion Kurama and you went through. None of the others experienced it either." It is most similar to that, however. It appears you retained most of the chakra from Kurama before our fusion, so your body survived the process. However, I will warn you, do not release more than 4 taels worth of my power, so never go beyond that until your chakra reserves increase. I am over 5 times the strength of Kurama from what I can feel. But that is probably underestimating my strength. The massive beast grinned once more. Very creepy. In Naruto's opinion, thanks to me your chakra will start increasing to compensate you for holding me. Luckily, since you already contained the strongest part of me, you are able to handle me in the first place. The Hachihi's host would not have survived the process. I'm surprised we did too. Naruto scratched his head for a moment, then sat down and looked at the beast with narrowed eyes. So how are we still alive though? Scrap that. Probably just my insane luck streak. Where are we? Are we still in that cavern? Cause I bet that Uchiha guy is pissed off right now. I do not know where we are. At Naruto's startled look, he elaborated, its red eye spinning, as if trying to bore into his mind. You need to wake up to discover that. Naruto's sweat dropped at that obvious statement before focusing on waking up. He was launched back to consciousness. Opening his eyes, he saw it was night, and he was in a forest that looked very like the forests surrounding Konoha, if slightly different. That made no sense to him, however, as he should have been nowhere near this area. In fact, he was at least a week away, and he doubted the man that spent so long hunting him would just dump him in such a place. Standing up, he felt slightly stiff, making him wonder how long he was there. Then again, it might be due to his chakra reserves getting a boost. So did a few stretches to loosen his joints. He did a few katas as a test before bit his thumb along a seal on his left bicep. A scroll poofed out of it, and the seal faded away. Naruto knew how messed up his clothes looked after his battle with Madara and the 2 large holes from Sasuke. The scroll contained spare clothes, black Anbu-style pants, a black shirt with a red Uzumaki symbol on the front, and his usual black and orange jacket. He left it partly open at the top before he put on his sage cloak on his back, red cloak with black flames on the bottom. He tapped his Tenketsu point to shut off his Sharingan, and launched into the trees heading in the direction of his village. Naruto's eyes immediately widened when he saw the destruction at the entrance to the village with bodies and blood scattered around the village. He swore loudly as he thought this was some sort of sick revenge request of Sasuke's. Ninja were tending to the wounded and sealing up the dead into scrolls. He saw a ninja nearby and jumped towards him. He didn't recognize the man, but he didn't know many of the ninjas in the village. Before he called out, "Hey, what the hell happened here? Was it that fucking masked bastard?" The ninja turned to the new voice and narrowed his eyes at the stranger. Since he didn't recognize him, the mismatching eyes threw him off too, but he quickly shook off any suspicion. The man looked much like their beloved Hokage, and he was looking at the wounded with barely concealed rage. He meant them no more harm. Naruto raised an eyebrow after gazing around the area again, waiting for a response. Unlike many in the shinobi army, Naruto only wore a Konoha headband. Since he wasn't officially a part of the army, the man sighed when he finally looked at it. "Where have you been hiding? The Kyuubi just attacked the village. Yandame-sama just took the beast out of the village with his teleportation jutsu." Naruto took in the information calmly on the outside, but inwardly he was swearing up a storm. "I'm sorry, it's just you look just like him. I was under the impression he had no living relatives. Never mind. Excuse me, I have to get these guys to safety. Can you help?" Naruto didn't even respond, just created a few Kagebushin and nodded to the wounded. Naruto's eyes carefully turned towards the Hokage monument, and he ignored the man's gasp at seeing his nonchalant use of such a chakra-costly technique. "These guys are yours, they'll follow your orders," he stated as his eyes widened in shock at what he saw. Only 4 faces. Where was Tsunade Bachan? The Kyuubi just attacked? The Yandame is fighting it? How can this be? The Juubi, hearing his thoughts, stated him. Somehow our merger caused a tear in space and time, or you just got lucky again. Could also be that technique Kumui. Naruto froze in place and tried to calm his nerves back in time. Does that mean that Mum and Dad are still alive? He heard a roar in his mind before a menacing growl. "Focus, kid. You're from the future. This must never be revealed to anyone. Yes, your parents might still be alive, if you hurry." Naruto took a deep breath before he responded, "Well, you don't need to tell me twice." "Time to kick some Kurama," as the Juubi made a whining-like sound. "How did I ever deal with such stupidity on a daily basis? Kurama must have built up a tolerance for it. Be cautious, if this is a past, we don't know the rules, this might not be your time. It could be another dimension for all we know, tread carefully." Naruto paled and muttered under his breath, "Oh God, what if Orochimaru is my father here?" Before he turned to the ninja, who informed him, "I'm going to go help him out if I can. If you need more clones, tell one of them to dispel, I'll send some more." Naruto was about to take off towards the faint red glow in the distance, but he found he couldn't move. "I'm afraid we can't let you leave until you tell us who you are." Shikaka Nara stepped into view, flanked by Chuzo Akimichi and Inoichi Yamanaka. Much younger looking, but they still looked relatively the same as he remembered seeing them only a few short hours ago. "My name is Naruto. Shadow user, scar on your face, you must be Shikaka Nara." All 4 shinobi present stiffened at the knowledge. "No offense, but I have no time to talk, I have to aid the Yandame." Naruto channeled chakra to the point it became visible, then he broke out of Shikaka's shadow hold with ease. He nodded to them, ignoring the looks before vanishing. Being highly trained ninja, they followed his movements, making him look like a red and yellow blur. He arrived just as his father yelled out "FUIN," sealing a large portion of Kurama's chakra into himself, weakening the fur ball considerably. at least temporarily. Bijou regenerate their chakra using nature energy, so the beast would only be weakened for a few minutes. Landing nearby the Sandame and two Jounin who were looking at the new arrival in shock, he muttered, "For fuck's sake. Damn it, I'm too late, wait. No, I can still do that," before he charged up a Rasengan and slammed it into the barrier, pushing more and more chakra into it until a hole opened up and he dove through it. Before it closed up. Lord Sandame, did he just easily force his way through the barrier we tried ourselves to break through with no success? With ease, the grizzled old warrior just looked dumbly at the blonde stranger that ran towards the Kyuubi with a battle cry and simply nodded. The Jounin sighed before stating, "I hope he's on our side then. I suppose you want my chakra now, Let's see if you can handle it," because Naruto hadn't mastered all the Juubi's tails like he did Kurama. When he channeled the beast's chakra, he was shrouded in a chakra coat, channeling more of the Juubi's chakra. His eyes turned silver with black slits. He shut his right eye before his left eye began to morph due to chakra channeling through it. When he channeled Kurama's chakra, his Sharingan remained red, due to that being the color of the chakra. However, oddly enough, the Juubi's chakra caused the Sharingan to turn into a silver eye with 3 tomo. His whiskers thickened considerably, one tail stuck out, which split into 2, shortly after 2 more tails came out. Naruto let out a feral roar that echoed throughout the area. He appeared behind his mother and father in time to block Kurama's claw from piercing them. He threw the claw back, making the 9-tailed fox land on his back. He quickly went through hand seals and pinned down the beast with chakra chains like his mother had shown him in his mind. Hers required no hand signs. Naruto just used an imitation. "Fuck you, Kurama." The beast that was writhing around in rage froze in place and stared at Naruto with his jaw actually open. The mighty fox's eyes were just as wide, more so when he saw the number of tails and the sheer power for chakra. How? Who? While Naruto ignored the stunned beast, released his shroud, turning off his Sharingan with the Tenketsu point, and turned to his parents who were watching him in shock and awe. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in a familiar manner to all present, and put on a big cheesy grin before he stated, "Aha." The witness's eyes widened in complete shock before Naruto turned serious. "I'm sorry, but you need to finish what you started, Minato. I didn't get here in time. If I did, maybe you could have survived, but you've made the deal with the Shinigami with the Shiki Fuin. There was a reason the seal was forbidden. Kushina, you also are too low on chakra, and having a bijou ripped from you is fatal. I'm shocked you're still alive, but you are an Uzumaki after all." Naruto sighed before he looked at them intently. "However, I might be able to help you be a part of your son's life in a way. If you each have enough chakra to create a Kagebushin, that is. It will be far more permanent than just leftover chakra you were planning on inserting into him anyway. Once his chakra reserves are big enough, you will be able to enter his mindscape, technically be able to see and talk to him as she sleeps or enters her mindscape herself. Since I stopped the fur ball here, you should have enough chakra to be put into the seal I'll create." Minato got over his shock, processed the information given the fastest, and stated, "While I'm impressed of your knowledge, power and obvious sealing skills, if what you state is possible, you did get one piece of information wrong." At Naruto's questioning glance, wondering what he got wrong. His mother had told him this story firsthand. "After all, I have a newborn daughter, Naruko, not a son. But if you can what you stated, then I would be grateful. I hope I'll have enough chakra left." Minato checked over the ceiling pedestal he prepared for Naruko, so only Kushina saw Naruto's eyes bug out and jaw drop in shock. Kushina looked at her currently crying daughter to the speechless man in front of her and noticed the similarities: blonde hair, blue eye. The other eye kind of looked like Mikoto's. Hell, even the whisker marks on their cheeks. Hell, he could probably pass as the father to her little girl at first glance. Seeing as her husband trusted the stranger enough, she too focused her chakra for one last time. She could feel the life fading and knew even without the offer she would die. She was stubborn but not stupid. Naruto nodded seriously before he bit his thumb and ran it along the back of his right hand, producing an ink bottle and brush. He asked for a sample of their blood, knowing the reasons as both being seal masters themselves. They did as instructed. Naruto mixed the blood into the ink and began drawing fluidly and quickly. When done, he nodded and they each took their turn to channel enough chakra for a Kagebushin into the seal. Naruto nodded before he ran through rapid hand signs. And the seal glowed before fading from view. Minato then summoned the toad to hold the seal key and ordered the toad to go and store itself within Jiraiya. "Who are you?" Kushina asked. She looked weak and her eyes looked slightly glazed over, showing she didn't have much time left. He closed his eyes for a moment and entered sage mode briefly. He scanned immediate area and made sure no one, even with chakra-enhanced hearing, should be able to hear if he answered her. As he was remembering the Juubi's warning, said Beast interrupted, "Kid, she's gonna die anyway. This might be the only time you can talk to your parents in the flesh." Minato had done the hand seals for the ceiling, so his chakra was ready to perform the action. The Shinigami was floating behind him, but he waited a moment to hear the strange man's answer. He still had strength enough left for that. Naruto, not taking any chances with the old monkey so close, walked over to them and talked low enough so the Sandame couldn't hear. "I don't know how, but I think somehow that masked bastard you just faced Minato sent me here from another time." At the look of disbelief on his parents' faces, he sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "We don't have enough time for a full rundown, so I'll give you the simple version. I thought I went back in time, but it's something else since you have a daughter, not a son. Trust me, it should be a boy." "I should know." Confusion was written on both their faces for a moment, playing his words through their heads. Kushina looked back and forth between her baby and the strange man. Suddenly her eyes widened in shock and she gasped, catching Minato's attention. Why, you're our child, aren't you? Naruto smiled at his mother. Well, I guess I wasn't as vague as I thought. Yeah, 18-year-old Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, nice to meet ya, Mom, Dad, he finished with a chuckle. Minato looked at him with narrowed eyes as if he saw him as a threat, but after a moment he suddenly got a bright grin. Well, I see that you turned out strong, son. I have to ask, since you changed my original plan with that seal, I take it I did that with you, so did I, ever explain to you why? Naruto held up his hand. There wasn't much time left to finish up. You did. When I went berserk when I thought someone important to me was murdered. I had almost released the Kyuubi in my rage. You stopped me before I tore off the seal. I was angry at first because of how I was treated by the village growing up, but I got over it. I strove to make you both proud of me. I might not have known you were my father until I was 15, but I always wanted to surpass the Yondaime Hokage though. Kushina was crying even harder. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Naruto wasn't sure what to do at first. He looked at his father for some sort of idea, then noticed a very distraught look in his eyes too. Naruto didn't understand when his mother seemed even more upset than before at his reaction, until he remembered meeting his mother in his mind, when he apologized and she hugged him, causing him to stiffen. Naruto's brain was on overdrive, thinking of what he could say to fix what he did. Are you really such a fool? A memory from 1 year ago popped into his mind, Kuratsuchi smacking him over the head when he upset Hinata, from how close they were training together, and how often they looked ruffled. Then having no idea going to fix the misunderstanding, Kuratsuchi, remembering her uncle Rashi, sighed before whispering in his ear once she realized he truly had no idea what to do. Naruto's eyes widened and he pulled Kushina into a hug and kissed her on the forehead. I forgave you years ago, Mom. I was never angry at you. As I told you in my mindscape, it was your love for me that kept me going. Somehow, despite everything everyone said, I just knew you didn't hate me. Somehow I knew that no matter how alone I felt, what people said about what you thought of me, that my mother and father did love me. I'll make sure your daughter doesn't experience that sort of life. That's a promise of a lifetime. Then Naruto backed up and gave a guy pose, and that's my nindo. I never go back on my word, Dadabayo. Kushina glomped him even harder than before and began crying her eyes out, and what sounded like howls. Last time I tried this on someone at work. Then he mouthed help, his eyes wide towards his father who had his own tears coming down his face with a smile. Then he realized advice he gave to young Inari and wave. It's okay to cry if you're happy. Naruto then beamed back at his father, with a matching big cheesy grin on his face. Minato was shocked at the insinuations his son was making. It was a dream, he knew, for his village to treat his daughter as a hero, but his hope for the old man to keep watch over her gave him hope at least. He realized how foolish and selfish his current move was, but his son had forgiven him. Looking back at his newborn child, Minato sent a silent prayer that his daughter would forgive him one day too. At least he could die at the very least knowing that his daughter would be protected. Even if it wasn't him or Kushina, he wanted to ask him about his life, his skills, his ninja missions, girlfriends, friends. But he had a job to do and his chakra was fading fast. With that seal his son made, maybe one day some form of him will hear all that. With that in mind he shook his head with tears coming down and nodded once before he clapped his hands and yelled out, Hack no Fuin Shiki, 8 trigrams divination sealing, style. The ghostly hand of the Shinigami shoved its way through his gut, causing the young Hokage to grunt in pain. The hand latched onto the Kyuubi. Going through a few hand seals he placed his hand gently on his daughter's stomach. The chakra beast was pulled into the seal, cursing the whole way, and Minato fell to the ground, his life slowly fading away. Kushina also seemed close to death. She looked up at Naruto and cupped his cheek softly. Please protect her, my son. She was smiling with her eyes closed as her body slumped. Naruto, understanding her last wishes, carried her over to his father and lay her beside him. Her hand reached out and held his. The barrier fell and the Sandaime turned order the two Jounin to silence to what they witnessed and cursed when they weren't there. They would now surely notify the village of the young Jinchuriki before he approached the group, to at least hear his successor's wishes and perhaps discover what the hell had happened that night. His wife still hadn't contacted him and he felt the truth, she was killed. His gaze turned to the newcomer who looked down at the young couple with an odd expression. The man known as the professor didn't need to hear what was said between the three shinobi. However, he clearly saw they were trusted him, so he didn't attack the stranger. Minato, you fool, I could have done it in your place. Why did you erect the barrier? Why did you use such a ceiling in the first place, your own daughter? Minato managed to let off a grin and tried to focus on the old man. You wouldn't have been strong enough, old man. A guy barely managed it. Kyuubi can't be contained in anything but a person in Uzumaki. The aged Hokage nodded with tears starting to come down. What would you like me to do, Minato? As a Jinchuriki of the demon that just attacked, the villagers will not see her as a hero holding back the beast. You know this from the cases from other villages. I can only do so much here. Minato smiled weakly once more. Naruto will raise her. We trust him, he is family. His eyes widened at the request before he turned to the newcomer who had tears coming down his eyes and he let out a sigh. I will see to it, my friend, on the lives of my family. I will see it done. Minato died moments later with a smile on his face. His wife turned to Naruto and smiled at him. Goodbye, Naruto. With that last word, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze joined her husband, the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Naruto kneeled and closed both their lifeless eyes. If only I was faster, I'm sorry for not protecting you. Rest Kushina Uzumaki, Minato Namikaze, I will take care of your legacy. You have my word. Pulling out a blank storage scroll, he wrote a quick seal before sealing his parents into them. To protect them from those who would want their secrets. They both have their enemies. I will find an appropriate place to bury them. Hiruzen Sarutobi bowed his head in respect before he turned to the newcomer. We have much to discuss, Naruto. Naruto sighed again before mentally considering what to say. Minato already said they were family. And he did look more like her than his mother. No last name. I never knew my parents, Namikaze. I guess Minato was considering officially adopting me. But considering I'll be raising young Naruto, I think I better take her mother's name. Hiruzen let out a sigh of his own. Yes, that does sound like something Minato would do. And you are right. It would be safer for the village and young Naruto that she not take on her father's name. The fact you broke through that barrier with ease and that you appear to be a Jinchuriki yourself, shows you are more than capable of defending her. But you can't be everywhere at once. Yes, your idea is sound. We should discuss this in more detail in the Hokage Tower. Sigh, I just can't get out of that seat. Damn you, Minato. Naruto cringed slightly at the words. He trusted his Jiji with his life, but this man wasn't his Jiji. Naruto was nothing more than a stranger who happened to look like his successor and claimed to be family. But with Minato's own words, it was clear there was some truth. A DNA test would fix any queries up easy enough. Hopefully the fact Naruto is a girl won't cause his DNA to be identical to hers though. He sighed internally but didn't panic as he would have in the past. Lead the way, Hokage-sama. The old man grumbled and looked to age drastically in a short span. To Hiruzen, however, all he could think about was all the paperwork this disaster will cause, the funeral planning, costs to rebuild, as well as the sheer military losses that were caused that night. It wasn't something to look forward to. Thankfully young Naruto would be a quick fix for Naruto, so he wouldn't have to worry about the girl. He had a few plans to discover if this boy was being truthful anyway. For now, he sensed no ill intent, so he wasn't too concerned. Yes, as a fellow Jinchuriki you would be the most suited to raising another. However, I will need you to attend a council meeting with me to go over the details with them all, such as your admittance into our forces, since I know all the shinobi in the village, and I do not know you from our ranks. There is also another matter that would be throw off the council. At Naruto's questioning glance he continued, few civilians knew about Kushina being pregnant. She had a powerful genjutsu on her to hide the fact. Many shinobi from main clans would likely know, unfortunately. Now Naruto is the child of the feared Yellow Flash of Konoha. If word of her existence got outside Konoha walls, there would be assassins knocking all the time, meaning diverting resources to keep her safe from outside and within our walls. The wise old Hokage made a point to look at both the baby on the pedestal, who oddly enough was sleeping, and himself. However, you and Naruto are both so strikingly similar. With your whisker-like facial marks, you could claim she is actually your biological daughter. Hell, we might even convince some of the clan heads, especially if we do a DNA test to prove it. You are so similar to Minato, your DNA might be as well, but I can arrange for results to be altered if need be. I don't wish to do this to Kushina or Minato, of course. It is in a way disrespectful. However, it would keep people from learning the truth, and you could tell Naruto the truth when you feel the time is right. Naruto blinked before chuckling softly to himself. I see now why you are known as the professor. The issue I have is that would that mean if those DNA results were leaked, they may assume I'm actually the one that knocked up Kushina. The Hokage had a sparkle in his eye, as if it were an ingenious idea. Meanwhile Naruto was shitting himself. How could he state he was romantically linked to his own mother? He let out a loud sigh, but the Hokage let out a soft chuckle. Naruto looked down at Naruto, who looked so peaceful and innocent. He couldn't help but wonder if that was what he once looked like, with the additional appendage attached to the lower region, of course. Frowning in thought, he saw the baby squirming and gazed down at her in fascination. So tiny and vulnerable, a small tuft of blonde hair and the similar whisker marks on her cheeks. Pulling out another scroll, he pulled out a blanket. With his kunai enhanced with wind chakra, he cleanly cut a section out. He felt the intense gaze of the Hokage but ignored it to focus on his task. Resealing what remained of the blanket, he carefully lifted Naruto and expertly began wrapping it around the baby up as gently as possible. The worried look in his eye caused a soft chuckle to escape the newly reinstated Hokage's lips once again. He remembered seeing that look from the memories of Kage Bunshin watching him handle his own sons. Naruto looked up at the sky and thought to himself, I really am one lucky, unpredictable shinobi, at Kakashi-sensei. He found himself not wanting to return to the war-torn future, the many deaths of those he called friends over the years, Jiraiya's death. He really hoped this wasn't a dream and began walking towards the village. Besides, with the Sandaime Hokage, the first person that showed him love, Hiruzen Sarutobi, one of the sole survivors of all 3 ninja world wars, wise, seasoned, hardened warrior and diplomat, as well as being one of the longest-running Kages in the history of the elemental nations. He was renowned as the Professor or Kami no Shinobi, God of Shinobi, throughout the world, for his prowess and skill on and off the battlefield. The aged Hokage couldn't help but look fondly at the young man walking beside him. In truth, he was studying him in more detail. Simple gestures can say more than many words, as the Hyuga clan state. Naruto gazed at the young baby that now held one of the greatest secrets and burdens of Konoha history. Such a role for one so young. Unlike her predecessors, young Naruto didn't have the privilege of having her burden unknown to the rest of the village. Naruto simply seemed mystified at the little bundle, just as any father would, the first time they see their child for the first time. Every time she twitched, Naruto would react and gain a small smile on his face. Curiosity was playing on his mind as to what could be going through Naruto's head. Hiruzen also took time to look at Naruto closely. His resemblance to Minato was uncanny. They could have been brothers. Hell, he couldn't help but wonder if they were possibly brothers. The Jinchuriki used the Rasengan to break through the barrier, and that was one of Minato's prized jutsus. It can't be copied just by observation, you have to understand the mechanics behind it. Minato must have taught him. What plagued Hiruzen was when this could have been. As they headed towards the village, Naruto's posture was relaxed and calm, as if he had walked the forest surrounding Konoha many times. It showed a shinobi that had no need to survey his surroundings, a shinobi that had already knew the layout like the back of their hand. But how could Naruto have managed this without one of his old Umbu, his old teammates, Danzo or even Jiraiya notifying him of the new face in his village? Paying more attention to the young lad's attire, his eyes narrowed for a moment when he caught the Uzumaki symbol on his t-shirt. Konoha used it on their uniforms from the Alliance during the Shodame's time as leader. Possibly a coincidence, but Kushina clearly trusted him, Minato too, by asking for his permission to allow Naruto to raise his daughter. Hiruzen didn't think even Jiraiya would have been given that right. Then there were the eyes, mismatched. While one looked just like Minato's, the other eye looked like a member of the Uchiha clan. That eye could cause you problems. But interesting. I wonder what would happen if I did this, the Juubi muttered to himself as he burst a surge of chakra into Naruto's eyes. HHH, Naruto yelled out, and his left hand shot to his eyes. His right safely cradling Naruto. What the fuck? Wary instantly, Hiruzen pushed all his senses to maximum, and tried to determine the source of causing the young's sudden pain. But he couldn't sense anything amiss. Turning back to Naruto, he saw the young man blinking rapidly. What the fuck did you do, asshole? Naruto quickly determined after pushing his own senses out that it wasn't an attack. The great chakra beast within him was the cause. Just a little gift, no need to concern yourself, the Juubi responded, then pushed more chakra into the eyes. Naruto grunted as he half expected the second wave of pain to hit his eyes. Then why the fuck do my eyes feel like they are on fire? Oh, I'm just fixing that little red-eye problem you have. Don't forget, we're in a time where there are many Uchiha running around. So I'm merely swapping, copying and playing with the DNA a little bit. No biggie, this should do it. One massive surge, far bigger than the previous, assaulted Naruto's eyes, and he let out another pained grunt. There we go. You'll thank me later. I'm not too sure how I knew to do that. I'm going to sleep with that. Great snores could be heard, echoing through the barren lands within Naruto's mind. Naruto's angry retort was removed when he felt a hand touch his shoulder. His eyes snapped to greet the Hokage, who gasped loudly, let me guess, something happened to my eyes? Naruto himself was confused. It looked like when he used his Sharingan, he could make out every single feature on the old man at a glance. The difference being, it wasn't disorienting, which meant it was both his eyes. Moments earlier, Hiruzen was actually slightly worried, as now he could feel pulses of that strong silver chakra that enveloped the boy when he took on the Kyuubi earlier, hitting his odd eyes. They were close to the village, and the last thing he needed was the new guy going out of control within his village. Just as he was about to take action, he felt the pulses stop. Cautiously he placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and his eyes widened, letting out a soft gasp when he seemed to look at two silver Sharingan-like eyes. Naruto didn't say anything, just fearlessly created a Kage-Bushin, ignoring the intense glare he seemed to be getting from the Hokage, turned to his newly made clone. Both looked at each other and let out simultaneous sighs. Well fuck. That was unexpected. Naruto tried the method that never worked for him before to turn off the Sharingan, and got a curious nod from his clone. Yeah, it's off, boss. Then it simply dispelled. Turning back to the Hokage, his eyes both now his cerulean blue, he improvised on the spot. It's part of being a Jinchuriki to the one I have got in me. It likes to change the base color of my eyes randomly for some reason. Hurts like a bitch every time, though. Inwardly he yelled out, I hope you can actually do that, bastard. Naruto roared into his mind. His only response was an exaggerated snort before snoring was heard again. Closing the link, he continued on his way towards the village, the Hokage deciding to just go with that answer, since Jinchuriki were known to have some odd abilities. But that silver Sharingan was something he would get an answer to, but for now he had other matters to attend to. The broken down gates of the village were within sight now. The reinstated Hokage's heart tightened when he saw the state his village was in. Gazing at Naruto again, he was surprised to see the genuine sadness in his eyes. Something like that is difficult to fake for a place you do not care for. Hiruzen would discover his story, or he was not the man who had lived so many years. They walked through the village, Hiruzen shaking his head sadly at the panicking civilians. He was again surprised when the man once more fearlessly called out Taju Kage-Bushin, and his mouth actually fell open at the sheer amount of clones. There had to be at least 100 of them. Aid whoever needs help, scatter. The clones didn't need to be told twice and vanished in multiple directions. Sure, Hiruzen knew how much chakra Jinchuriki had, but that amount was unbelievable. Plus the fact Naruto didn't even seem winded from it, as if it were second nature to him to produce so many clones. This again baffled him, how he could get in and out of the village undetected. True, he might have been using a henge, but his all-seeing Hokage ball, plus the detection barrier, should have alerted him to such a powerful shinobi entering his village. So how did he get past one of the best safeguards the village held? Sighing inwardly, he knew it would be pointless to continue this line of thought. The boy looked to be no threat. The truth would reveal itself in time. Many people looked at the Yandame lookalike in awe, curiosity at his appearance, the sheer amount of copies that were aiding them all over, or perhaps they were told how he tossed the Kyuubi aside like a misbehaving mutt. Or as Naruto liked to believe, maybe he just looked that awesome with his sage cloak on. When they looked at Naruto in his arms though, some of them turned their expressions to hate and glares. I guess those jounin I saw when I arrived at the barrier have spread word about Naruto GG, and my bitch slapping Kyuubi around. Sweat dropping over the nonchalant answer of taking on the strongest of the Bijou, he did observe that he nodded. It seems they already are thinking of her as the demon itself, since she is weak and they can channel their anger towards her. I don't know what would have happened if you had not arrived, Naruto. Since I formed the council, decisions are based on vote. Naruto would not have been placed with a family as an orphan. I would only have been able to have my most trustworthy Umbu watch her for so long. Due to the current state of the village, we would have to increase higher missions to get the funds to get back on our feet. Plus none of the major clans could take her or provoke dispute with the others. Naruto sighed before looking up at the sky. Hated, all Jinchuriki are by some. It varies depending on where they grow up. It could be as little as ignoring her existence to as bad as assassination attempts. Still, I'll be there to help her. But still, the glares may get to her, the hush whispers, parents telling the other kids to stay away. I don't want her to live a life like mine. Hiruzen looked saddened at hearing this, but he nodded, understanding it was likely true. He had lived a long time, knew full well how Jinchuriki tended to be hated by the locals. The ninja population held more respect but were unable to take an active place raising them, or face the wrath of their comrades. Civilians may see Jinchuriki as demons, ninja, see them as weapons. Any ninja that isn't directly blood-related would be hard-pressed to have other clans or fellow ninja believe they weren't raising a superwin against them. Naruto winced a few times as memories came pouring in, someone mistaking him for the Yandame at a distance and praising Kami, only for him to land and have them saddened again. Some of the bodies torn apart from Kurama's claws or bodies crushed. Little children crying for the parents. His heart clenched when a clone had found Irika screaming at an Umbu who refused to bring back his parents. Hiruzen noticed the flinches and changes in expression, but knowing the Kagebushin himself, he knew of the side effects of receiving the memories, so said nothing. They finally made it to the Hokage Tower, and Hiruzen led Naruto to his now once again office. He stated to the Umbu present that Minato-bin had killed in his battle before asking them to gather the council for an emergency meeting. He then activated the sound barrier seals as well as a crib that was sealed on the side of the desk that Minato had installed. Naruto walked over and carefully placed Naruto in it. He turned to see the Hokage looking at him seriously, the friendly nature gone, and the look of the leader of a village in full effect. He asked some question he expected Naruto not to answer immediately, but it was his duty, so he asked nonetheless, "Where are you from? How did you get into this village? How did you obtain those eyes?" "I gave Minato my word, but that doesn't mean I trust you, young man." Naruto gazed down at Naruto inside of it. He closed his eyes and thought. He wanted to glare at the Hokage. But Naruto wasn't stupid. He was the leader of the village. Naruto was an unknown, with his Sharingan-like eyes. The old man probably thought he tricked Minato to say what he did in his dying moments. Training with the best, with his own ability to improvise on the spot, Naruto decided to go with the flow, as Kakashi used to tell him. Tell half-truths and insert lies to deceive. Opening his eyes, he sent a small smile over at the old man. "I was told I was born somewhere on the outskirts of Konoha. Beyond that I'm not sure where I'm truly from. I've looked for years for information of my parents, but I could never find any. When I got my hands on a bingo book and saw a picture of the yellow flash, well, I thought there could be a possibility we were related." Hiruzen merely pulled out a pipe and lit it before gesturing for Naruto to continue. This much was believable. Naruto thought of Jiraiya and his heart dropped remembering those times. With a small smile he continued, "I'm not really sure how I survived my first few years. I don't really remember anything from that time. But from the time I do remember, I was living in the wilderness, sneaking into villages where I saw people and stole food when I could. One day I came across a campfire with a man who was cooking food. He growled and told me to come out. I wasn't taught talk, but still I somehow understood he meant no harm, so I came out. He sized me and smiled, telling me he would train me to survive. Remembering some of the adventures with Jiraiya, he got a cheeky grin. Over the next 6 years he trained me. In hindsight, I think he was a missing nin. He never told me his name, so I started calling him Erosenin, perverted hermit." Hiruzen grew curious at this. It truly sounded like Naruto was describing his student Jiraiya. He was known to take in strays and train them to defend themselves. But surely one who looked like his student would have caused him to bring the boy to the village. So he dismissed the idea for now. He would demand Jiraiya to return. After all, Naruto was his goddaughter. Naruto was now mixing his story with Nagato and Konan's, but it's one that stuck with him. "Erosenin always stated that I would one day bring peace, so I trained hard to prove myself. It gave me a purpose, a reason to get stronger. Then one day he said he was leaving, that I could take care of myself now. With that alone he merely walked away and left me on my own." Hiruzen ran over what he was told to try and find any plot holes. It seemed eerily familiar to Jiraiya's tale of training the 3 rain brats, but none of them matched Naruto's description. Plus if he were, he would be older. One thing that made no sense though came to the forefront. An interesting tale, Naruto. However, you are a Jinchuriki, a human weapon, a tool for a shinobi nation. He saw the look of rage at being called a tool but dismissed it for the moment. No village would have let their Jinchuriki out of their sights, and as far as I'm aware, all the bijou are accounted for. So which do you contain? Naruto stood and walked over to the window with a sad look at the village below. He said, I kept training, improving my skills. What was hard was I never knew about my bijou. I only found out when I got in over my head. I was fighting a boy wielding the Hyutan bloodline. Hiruzen eyebrows rose. That bloodline was in Kiri. Plus there were talks of their Jinchuriki leader losing his mind. Gesturing, Naruto continued, he did so. Simply put, he kicked my ass. Nearly killed me, to be honest, before I grew angry, angrier than I'd ever felt before. This was the first time I released the power of my bijou, he said sadly, not wanting to look the man in the eye. Naruto learned an important lesson from Haku that day, in a way the most important lesson of his ninja career. As for what I contain, what number comes after 9? Hiruzen coughed when he inhaled too much smoke at once and stared at Naruto with wide eyes. The oldest living Hokage prided himself on his knowledge. One of the biggest secrets of the ninja world was that the legendary sage was the Jinchuriki of the strongest bijou. Supposedly an indiscriminate raging beast that made the Kyuubi look like a puppy, the Juubi. This boy was claiming he contained it. How could that be? The legend spoke that the sage split the beast into 9 pieces, the current bijou that roamed the world. Quickly running through scenarios in his head, he let out a sigh, when he realized Naruto likely didn't know how he began the Jinchuriki of the beast from his story. As he had no true idea where he was from, for some reason he had a nagging feeling it had something to do with the battle between his sensei and Madara Uchiha, the reason why the body was never found. That is frankly disturbing news, Naruto, for more reason than one. We can discuss more on that and how you infiltrated the village so easily later. Now for those eyes. Sighing, inwardly hoping was right, he looked the Hokage in the eyes before activating them. Seeing the Hokage flinch and lower his gaze to his nose, he said, yeah, I see you didn't earn the title of professor for nothing, Hokage Gigi. According to Big and Ugly in my head, he altered my DNA or something to give me it. What exactly he did, even he doesn't seem to know. His words were, I wonder how I knew how to do that. I'm going to sleep. You talk to it, Hiruzen stated with wide eyes, as Naruto scratched the back of his head and chuckled nervously. Sure, we got a sort of agreement going. I don't piss it off and it doesn't eat me or fuck up my mind. Apparently the constant disturbing talk in your head all the time drives some Jinchuriki to insanity, or even Sudai to escape it, Naruto said with a shrug, deactivating his eyes. The Sandaime shook his head in disbelief at the explanation that oddly seemed to make perfect sense. A knock on the door startled the Hokage from discussing this topic further. Naruto, your backstory we created during our walk here, about you being Naruko's father. You took on Kushina's name after conceiving young Naruko, so you both have the surname Uzumaki. This is what we will tell the council, understood? I shall handle the paperwork later to hide the trail to the truth. Another knock sounded and Naruto simply nodded. He could sort out the repercussions later. This was an order from his Hokage. The seals deactivated and 3, clearly young Umbu entered into the room. Hokage-sama, the council is waiting for you in the chambers. The Umbu all turned to Naruto and proceeded to stare at him. Naruto meanwhile would recognize one of them anywhere. That silver hair gave it away. He never understood why Umbu never hinged their hair while on duty. It's not like gravity-defying hair was common in Konoha. Kakashi's I assume he stopped himself from saying sensei just in time. Minato told me about you. I thought you would be taller, though. Naruto honestly never remembered how old Kakashi was. But judging from his size and height, we would be around mid-teens. Nonetheless, Naruto gave him a bright smile and scratched his head nervously. Kakashi gasped at what he just heard. How did this blonde guy guess his identity? He might not have been an Umbu long, but still, he was in his getup. Meanwhile, one of the other members chuckled, causing Kakashi to turn and glare at him, which provoked loud laughter. Hiruzen himself couldn't help but chuckle before he stated, you can remove your mask, dog. You too, Eagle, Cat, tell the council we are on our way. The youngest of the 3 Umbu saluted before leaving out the door. Turning to the remaining 2, Hiruzen continued, I thought you might like to meet you sensei's relative boys. How did you know it was him, Naruto? Naruto blinked in surprise, looking curiously at Eagle. The young man knew both his sensei's teammates died during the Third War. Did his father take on other students before he became Hokage or something? Hokage-sama, does that mean sensei is he? Hiruzen sighed before nodding sadly, yes, Obito. I'm afraid he sacrificed himself to seal the Kyuubi into young Naruko there. I know it must be hard for you both. Both boys stiffened at the insinuation and removed their masks. Naruto's eyes widened in shock at the name Obito. Then he saw Kakashi with no scar over his eye and both the same color. No Sharingan. Then the second boy, the supposed one that changed Kakashi forever, was looking curiously at him. Sharingan activated. I see, then I swear to protect sensei's legacy with my life, the Uchiha stated seriously and nodded respectively to Naruto. So you're related to sensei? We can play this game later, Obito. So you're the one with clones running around the village aiding people? Kakashi narrowed his eyes and seemed to size Naruto up. Naruto himself was shocked still. His sensei, the aloof, uncaring man, sounded and looked like Sasuke. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, Naruto turned back to the Hokage. Well, he's short, young, has silver gravity-defying hair. No offense, Gigi, but any Umbu with distinct features like that should really be wearing a henge. Oh, and nice to meet you, Kakashi. Obito, you sure he isn't the Uchiha though? Naruto said, indicating Kakashi. Obito laughed loudly and clapped Kakashi on the back a few times, said boy looked murderous if that glare he was giving Naruto was any indication. Obito turned back to Naruto. Thank you for the clones though, they are really helping the process. We have confirmed at least 10 cases where some people would have died without their assistance. Hiruzen cleared his thought. As enjoyable as this discussion is, we can have it later, we have pressing matters to attend to now. Kakashi, Obito, put on your masks back on and come with us to the chamber. You may wish to know how Minato died. Kakashi's face twitched before he bowed. Of course, Hokage-sama, he had hoped the rumors of his sensei's death was false, but he had a duty to complete before he could grieve. Nodding, he placed his mask back on, stood at attention. You get used to Mr. Professional over here, Naruto, Obito stated with as much cheer as he could, as he was once more reminded of his father figure's death, before copying his teammate. Naruto went over to Naruko and saw her sound asleep still. Before he picked her up, she stirred slightly and he froze for a moment. He sighed in relief and sealed up the crib, walked out of the room beside the Hokage and the two Anbu following. None saw the small hidden smile under his hat he now donned. When they neared the council chambers, they could hear the heated voices coming from the other side. With a heavy sigh, the Sandaime Hokage straightened himself, slammed the door open and strode into the room, causing instant silence. He went over to take the Hokage seat. Naruto set up the crib and the boys stood guard at the entrance. Naruto quickly drew silencing seals around the crib before activating them. The room was watching the man curiously. On the way to the tower, they had seen many clones running about, aiding the villagers and shinobi alike. The civilian side didn't truly understand the significance of that many clones, but the shinobi side did. From the sheer number of solid clones alone, this stranger must have at like Bijou-sized chakra reserves. A few jounin were already spreading the word that he produced an odd chakra the clan heads recognized as a chakra cloak of a Jinchuriki. As Naruto stood and turned around, he took in their expressions, from the hard, calculated looks of Danzo Shimura, Shikaku Nara and Fugaku Uchiha, to the more curious looks of Tsuma Choza Akamachi and most of the civilian side. Then in different shinobi faces of Hayashi Hyuga, Shibi Aburame, Inoichi Yamanaka and the Hokage. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and gave a goofy smile. Hi. Hiruzen cleared his throat, gaining everyone's attention before he stated, as I'm sure you're all aware, I am in the Hokage seat once more. As Minato lost his life against the Kyuubi. Mutters broke out, but as soon as the Hokage cleared his throat loudly, we will discuss that in a moment. He gestured to Naruto before announcing, this is 18-year-old Naruto Uzumaki, formerly adopted by Kushina into her clan. She told me herself in her last words that Naruto was family. I shall gather the correct documentation to prove it at a later date. Minato too seemed aware of it. I have already questioned him and believe him not to be a threat to the village. No offense, Hokage-sama, but my Kikeichu are unsettled. This young man appears to have chakra rivaling Kyuubi itself at least. Just who is he? Shibi Aburame stated in a monotone voice. Naruto suddenly thought that Shino was an overexcited child compared to this guy. Mutters broke out again and many of the counselors turned to their leader, awaiting an answer to Shibi's question. Kami, his chakra is so dense, he also appears to have more tenketsu points, almost as if Hayashi Hyuga's eyes widened for a moment, and he deactivated his eyes and gazed Naruto a curious gaze. My assessment is the same as Aburame and Hyuga, where your chakra is like a strong flame, Hokage-sama. This boy's is like a controlled inferno. His chakra is even denser than Kushina Uzumaki. The only person I've seen with even something to compare to this is Kumo's Jin. Fugaku Uchiha eyes widened as he gave himself his own answer. The Hokage let out a sigh, knowing that with 3 chakra sensors on the council, it would be impossible to delay this information much longer. How they would take that the village now contains 2 demons, or 2 super weapons, is another matter. Shikaku then raised his head and asked, can you prove your claims? Yondaime-sama or Kushina knew you. How do we know that they really trusted you? The Hokage might believe you, but we aren't the Hokage. The room as a whole nodded to each other, all wanting to know the answer to this question as well. Knowing the simplest way was to merely show them some techniques, Naruto went through a few hand signs. Earth release. Dense rock wall. A large glob of mud spewed out of his mouth, that grew and hardened into a thick rock wall. He then raised his arm to it. Something Kushina taught me. Out of his arms golden chains flew out, and wrapped tightly around the rock slab, tight enough to cause cracks on it. I have witnessed Kushina Uzumaki use this technique, although they appear from her back, Hayashi commented, now with a look of curiosity on his face. Naruto acknowledged the man's words before he stated, proof. Minato taught me something he would only teach to those he trusted. Gasps were heard throughout the room, including the door where 2 young Anbu were watching with wide eyes. Naruto then vanished and appeared in front of the rock wall, bringing his arm forward with a shout of Rasengan. The Rasengan tore through it like tissue paper. Naruto held up the Rasengan to show it was still intact before dispelling it. All the civilians had slight fear in the eyes, while the shinobi side were looking at him intently. To do damage like that with 2 techniques, one to capture, the other to execute. Turning his eyes to Shikaku, he raised his eyebrows. The lazy man merely grunted out, very well, I believe you, Uzumaki. Yondaime-sama would not have taught you one of his prized jutsu or used who I assume is your daughter from the similarities I can see. If he didn't believe you could be trusted. The room was silent for a moment processing this. Danzo took that moment to speak. The Yondaime's birth parents were unknown, so there is another option. Tell me, Uzumaki, did the Yondaime believe you to be a blood relative? Mutters broke out as that possibility could be true. Naruto shrugged, we've never really tested it. DNA tests could be altered, so he was considering using a blood seal test. I believe the Hokage was going to test me with that method if the DNA test proved positive. Naruto noticed many who knew enough about Fuinjutsu narrowed their eyes and thought, if he was related, nothing would happen but the seal releasing what it was meant to. But if it didn't, the seal would drain the user of their chakra, usually leading to chakra exhaustion, then death. But with this boy's sheer amount, that could prove dangerous. Naruto noticed the surprised look on the old Hokage before mentally smirking. Then a pink-haired woman Naruto assumed to be Sakura's mother spoke. What happened to the Kyuubi Hokage-sama? Hiruzen took out his pipe and lit it, knowing this could get ugly before he stated calmly, I'm sure it has already reached your ears, Haruno, since Naruto, and I saw some glares on the way to the tower. Also very astute of you to pick up that little fact. Shikaku, Minato traded his life to seal the beast into Naruko Uzumaki, the daughter of Naruto here. The room suddenly went silent as they watched Naruto carefully to see if he was angry at this happened to his daughter. The civilians were confused when he seemed fine with the sealing. Why would he want his daughter to be a demon? Many of the shinobi were curious of him too. Uzumaki, I'm sorry for the loss of your daughter. But the demon must be a civilian council member began but didn't finish when there was suddenly a dense killer intent in the room. Even the Hokage was sweating under the pressure. Then suddenly it was gone when Naruto heard crying and he quickly appeared over to the crib and picked Naruko up. Naruto began gently rocking and sending coups to his younger counterpart to calm her down. I'm sorry, little Naruko. I didn't mean to scare you. A few moments later she calmed down, and Naruto placed her carefully back in the crib. He turned around and sent a glare at the man who had spoken before. He didn't use Ki again. No, my daughter is not dead, she is right here, counselor. Know the difference between the demon and the container. Also a bijou cannot be killed, weakened yes but not killed. If Naruko here was to die, the Kyuubi would be gone only temporarily. It would eventually reform to wreak havoc once more. You would only get maybe a few weeks of peace, then it would return to do what it started. Why do you think humans are used to seal the beasts away, idiot? She is keeping it safe from everyone. If Naruko dies, the Kyuubi would take a while to reform, maybe more along the lines of a year. Because it was sealed near Konoha, Kurama would probably flee the area or just use a Bijidama to wipe Konoha from a distance to avoid the same fate. The statement he used would help keep Naruko safer with luck. How do we know the demon won't influence the girl boy? Looking over at the civilian who spoke, Naruto recognized him as one who always refused to serve him as a child. Glaring, he stated, you really have such little faith in your recently passed Hokage's abilities? Pausing for a moment, and inwardly laughing at the look on the man's face as he received glares from around the room. The young Jinchuriki continued to seal Yandame-sama used as forbidden for a reason, not just because it requires the soul of the caster. However, it is very effective. The fox will not be able to communicate with Naruko unless the seal is weakened or she is in a near-death situation. In this case, she will subconsciously open a link to it in order to save her life, because her mind would be weak in such a state. The Kyuubi will have control and would likely seek its revenge. Looking mainly at the civilians to make sure they were listening, he continued, it won't influence Naruko in the most basic sense unless she is in a heightened state of distress, when she summons forth its power. Even then it depends on Naruko's will and chakra reserves to fend off the rage and bloodlust that she will feel while channeling its chakra. With training in making her a powerful kunoichi, she will use the chakra of the Kyuubi as a power battery in a sense. Taking a breath, he continued, this is the problem that most villages have with their Jinchuriki. They are stupid to attack, neglect or make the person who contains the beast believe they are indeed the beast itself. Since they will willingly give in to the rage and bloodlust whenever they channel the beast's power, the bijou will have a much stronger influence over them. All the civilian counselors paled as they had all been thinking of finishing the late Yandame's work and killing the girl, or at the very least they all had thoughts of that, making the girl miserable. But they were basically just told. Anything like that would make the girl likely to become the beast they thought she already was. You seem to know a lot about the abilities of a Jinchuriki Uzumaki. Turning to Danzo, he let out a sigh. It might be better to kill the fool before he does so much shit in the future. Then again, he did the dirty work behind the scenes that unfortunately did keep Konoha safe, at least according to Tsunade and Itachi. Still, Danzo's words pissed him off greatly. Everyone's eyes widened when Naruto's eyes shifted to silver with a black vertical slit. His whiskers thickened and his canines elongated. He quickly released a small amount of killing intent. Before he could speak, another voice interrupted. I see. It makes sense that a Jinchuriki should raise another one, so I won't question you raising your own daughter, but which one do you contain? As far as I'm aware, all of the tailed beasts are accounted for. Fugaku Uchiha asked with a frown. Naruto looked at him, and narrowed his eyes, thinking he shouldn't say anything. The Uchiha had the tablet according to Itachi, considering Shursui had the Manjikyu. Just how many other Uchiha did as well. Fugaku was the clan head. There's a good chance that the head of the clan would know about the Juubi. Then again, the Manjiki didn't state all that was written, only of the Juubi's existence. After a moment, Naruto stated the same as he told the Hokage, what number comes after 9? There's a Juubi, how many more are there? A civilian stated, looked close to a state of panic. The look of shock on the Uchiha clan head's face was Naruto's favorite. Naruto then knew that the man likely did know, at least in part, what information lay on the tablet, if not directly, perhaps from the previous clan head's notes. Naruto waved his hand to dismiss the statement after seeing multiple squirming and worried looks around the room. None. The Juubi is the most powerful and the most secret of the tailed beasts, which is likely why none of you have heard of it before. It was thought to have been the beast sealed within the legendary Sage of the Six Paths. The council didn't know what to make of Naruto. He was telling them things that they believed to be true, then tossing them aside to state what he believed. How do we know you are telling the truth of which beast you contain? Hayashi Hyuga asked stoically. Naruto let out an audible sigh. What reason could he possibly have to lie about this? Tell the Yamanaka to enter your mind. I guard your memories. So he can't see anything about your past, are you sure? Sure, I mean, I wouldn't want a little clip of when you got curious of the lady's side of the hot springs to play by any chance, would we? I wonder what certain fathers would say, especially considering some daughters look so much like their mothers. Naruto blushed, then paled in short succession, confusing many in the room, thinking it was from Hayashi's question. Turning to Inoichi. Inoichi, feel up for confirming what I stated. The big boy promised to behave. I really hope he behaves. As suddenly the scene he witnessed between some of his age group in the hot springs popped up in his mind very clearly. He knew it was the Juubi, and he couldn't help the perverted blush that came upon his cheeks. How did you know who I am? The blonde mind master asked with a frown of his own. This was starting to piss Naruto off a bit. He showed Minato apparently trusted him, so why wouldn't he talk about those that served on the council to advise him? Seriously, it was stupid on their behalf. Naruto, despite his irritation, calmly replied, for one, if Minato trusted me enough to teach the Rasengan and the advanced Fuinjutsu, then why wouldn't he tell me of the important figureheads of the village? But if you must know, I figured out you were a member of the Ino Shikacho trio Minato spoke highly of, that was made famous in the last war. Especially when Shikaku there binded me with his shadow with you and Chuza flanking him, said shadow user muttered out troublesome. Inoichi turned to the Hokage who nodded before he walked over to Naruto and placed his right hand on his forehead. The room was silent, waiting for confirmation. Inoichi appeared in a barren wasteland. Everything seemed darker than it should be. Nothing appeared to be around except for the small foliage of trees in the distance. This was where he assumed the memories were. Confusion hit him as to why Naruto would have a mindscape. Most people he could just touch their mind and access the memories. Some extremely skilled shinobi could create mindscapes, but never in one so young. Being a ninja, he cautiously approached the trees while gazing the area. His instincts told him to turn, so he did so and gaped at what he assumed should be the moon. Instead it was like a giant eye. Watching the area intently, it looked like some sort of mutated Sharingan. A low growl was heard and Inoichi stiffened, a massive boom and the ground shaking beneath him. He knew what it must be. Turning around slowly, the man who considered himself mentally prepared for anything stared in complete fear at the creature in front of him. He just earlier today stood in front of the Kyuubi, but it held nothing to this feeling. The beast seemed to be shrouded in darkness, with a body matching the Kyuubi. That's where the similarities ended. This creature had a head with multiple spikes coming off it, making it seem darker than Kyuubi, more demonic. As if sensing this, the beast smiled, showing off its razor-sharp teeth that seemed to cover its entire jawline, then its single eye opened. Gazing intently at him, what's wrong, boy? Inoichi fled the mind immediately as he saw the Io Kami, Uzumaki. What the fuck is that? Why isn't that thing in a cage? I've never heard of the beast being loose in one's mindscape. What's to stop it affecting your mind? Naruto, inwardly sweat dropped. What did you do? Asked him what's wrong, sighing. He decided to answer a mixture of the truth with his knowledge of the Yamanaka beliefs to satisfy the man. My mind, my rules. Beastie gets a greater taste of freedom within my mindscape. I can use his chakra with my own when I need to, makes our existence together more bearable. You should know mind defenses utilize chakra. What did you think I meant when I said chakra can stop the influence of the beast? Well, Inoichi-san, did this, beast have 10 tails? Also, could you describe it? The Sandame asked of the mind jutsu user. The mind user gave a stiff nod. Hokage-sama. That thing makes the Kyuubi seem like a puppy. Wide eyes met his statement as he went on to describe it. When he got to the eye description, Fugaku's eyes activated his Sharingan, and he looked at Naruto intently. The aged leader nodded back. He thought of what Naruto told him before about the treatment of Jinchuriki. Giving the council a harsh glare, he stated, very well. At this point, the word of what you and your daughter likely are cannot be prevented, Naruto. However, as of now I am making it law under penalty of death, that no newcomer to the village, any child under the age of 2 and any future children born within Konoha, shall be told the truth of our newest Jinchuriki duo. The council was in an uproar, the civilians shouting about the safety of the children. The shinobi side merely watched Naruto's reaction and some sweat dropped when he appeared to not be listening. Silence, the Hokage roared after the civilian side didn't look to be calming down. They will not learn of the Kyuubi being sealed in young Naruto. The children and newcomers will be told the Kyuubi was killed by the Yandame at the cost of his life. Is this understood? If it is not, I will order seals be placed on all who I believe will not keep the greatest secret of the village. In case you idiots haven't figured it out, we have the likely most powerful shinobi in our ranks as of now, as well as the potential in his daughter. You will not cripple our strength with your fears. Again the civilians paled drastically. They wouldn't even be able to speak of the demon in front of their children or face death. Worse, if they still refused, they would be sealed. A few moments later the room was filled with yes, Hokage-sama. The Hokage turned to Naruto. Is there anything you wish to add, Naruto? Nah, Gigi, you covered the bases pretty well. Although free ramen for the two of us would be nice, Naruto questioned with a hopeful look. The council members looked at the young man in disbelief for the strange request. I'm afraid I can't do that, Naruto. The best I can do is enforcing this law to prevent the village from speaking of her tenant to the younger generations. Naruto let out a sigh but nodded while looking at the civilians. Well, there might be one thing. Will there be repercussions if I kick the asses of any civilians or ranked ninja that try to harm me or my daughter? I promise I won't hurt them bad enough to end their ninja careers. The civilians, I promise not to kill them or leave them crippled for life. You cannot seriously consider this, Hokage-sama, one fat civilian roared in protest, actually standing to his feet. This killing intent filled the room once more, cutting the man's sentence, but it lasted mere moments. I deserve the right to protect my child. What would any of you do if you were not allowed to protect your children if you had the power to do so? Hiruzen let out an annoyed sigh. As long as you do not do any permanent damage to my soldiers, do as you wish, Naruto. What about us, Hokage-sama? Sakura's mother stated sweetly, but Naruto recognized the underlying threat at the statement. Don't do anything to provoke him, Rosa. You won't have any problems, will you? Hiruzen replied just as sweetly, the underlying threat made clear. When no one disputed any further, he nodded very well. Then, the Hokage let out an annoyed sigh as his old teammate spoke. I agree with the law, of course, Hokage-sama. But with both of them we now have an advantage over the other villages. Such a secret should be kept as hidden as possible. Should we not do the sealing anyway? What if word of our village holding the two most powerful bijou in our possession? The other villages may once again rally together to wipe us out, Hamura stated. Many of the civilians once more broke into angry outbursts. We would lose faith of our people, Hamura. That would not be wise to seal them. However, perhaps we should train young Naruto to be our weapon, Dan Koharu began to explain. I'm afraid there is no better teacher than me in this case. As I am a new shinobi in your ranks, I have no doubt I will be tested. Give me the best fighters you have. I will show you my skill. The confidence in his statement caused the elders to glare at him in rage, but they too wished to see his skill set. So they let his disrespectful interruption slide this time. Naruto, what rank ninja are you? I have my suspicions after seeing you overpower the Kyuubi, but I wish to hear what you have to say. Naruto's eyes widened at that while the rest of the room looked at him in shock. He forgot he wasn't a ninja in the village right now. He thought about it, and couldn't actually think of how strong he was. He had always been a genin, but he could beat multiple Kage-level shinobi, and that was only using Sage mode. Since he mastered the Kyuubi and learned quite a number of high-level jutsu, what level did that put him at? Looking at the Hokage after some thought, he stated, well, I never actually thought about it before. I have a very large repertoire or ninjutsu, taijutsu styles and fuinjutsu from all the hidden villages from over the years of travel, insane chakra reserves. I have fought and defeated multiple Kage-level opponents. That's using my base skills, so not even including the Juubi's chakra. Thanks to my abnormally high chakra reserves, I can use all 5 chakra elements, although my main affinities are fire and wind. The other 3 elements need way more chakra than they would normally need to work, but even my strongest attacks don't dent my reserves enough to bother me too much. Because of the chakra beast in me, I have an extremely high cellular regeneration, making wounds heal quickly, and since I got an agreement with Cyclops, I don't get harmed from overexposure to using his chakra. I have fought and beaten other Jinchuriki before, as well as giving a fully released Biju a beatdown, as I did with Kyuubi earlier. Although the fur ball was weakened considerably by Minato, that's probably the lot, I think. The eyes in the room kept growing bigger as he kept talking. Hiruzen even had dropped his pipe from his mouth as the list kept growing. Soon enough Choza burst into insane laughter. You might be called the Kami no Shinobi Hokage-sama. But this boy sounds like he is Kami. Murmurs of agreement were muttered. Jinchuriki were known for being powerhouses, villages' secret weapons, but this young man was more like a god than a mere man. The civilians were literally inwardly shitting themselves, wondering how they could convince their peers not to make this monster their enemy. All eyes turned to the Hokage as Choza's laughter continued. The large man managed to calm himself to listen as the Hokage spoke. Naruto, you had the Kyuubi stuttering. You broke through at S-rank barrier jutsu with 1 attack in ease, created an army of Kage-bushin, and you are a Jinchuriki of the most powerful Biju in history. You state that you can use all 5 elements. If the powers of other Jinchuriki are any indication, you will likely gain a Kekai Genkai in the future if you haven't already. A significant look was given to Naruto here that made the young time traveler want to roll his eyes. I think it's easy to say you are well above Kage level, but as I am the Hokage, I'll be giving you the rank of elite Jounin. Is that acceptable to everyone? He asked while gazing around the room. That occupants were still looking at Naruto in shock. Hayashi looked calm, but if the body twitches he was experiencing, he looked kind of constipated. His Byakugan kept flickering on and off again, as if he were arguing with himself. Fugaku had his Sharingan activated, seemed to be trying to see through him, or something. Naruto had a feeling the head Uchiha was trying to figure out if Naruto could somehow be convinced to aid them gain power. It was pretty obvious their coup would fail if Naruto was in league with the Hokage. Sim was giving him a seductive gaze as she was seeing him as the ultimate alpha male. The fact he contained a raging feral beast that happened to be the strongest of all just added to the appeal for her. The civilians were looking at him in fear, knowing he could kill them with ease if he wished to, and no Umbu or ninja could protect them. Shikaku was sweating, realizing if Naruto had seen him and his friends as a threat earlier, he could have wiped them out with ease. Danzo, Hamura and Koharu were all inwardly seething, realizing the young man would not be easily manipulated or controlled by them. Hell, if he was as skilled as he claimed in Fuinjutsu, the boy might even break out of their methods of forceful control. The only way would be through his daughter, but no doubt he would turn against the village if they did that. They could only hope he did not become their enemy. With his strength and possible relation to Minato, he could very well be the next Hokage sometime in the future too, so they had to play their cards right. When the Sandame heard no objection, he stated, very well then, I officially welcome to the village elite Jonin Uzumaki Naruto. Come to my office, Naruto, so I may present your vest and headband. There is also that matter of blood relation and accommodation to discuss. No one disagreed with the Hokage's statement before he nodded and stated, Shikaku, I need you to get a summary of our current forces and how many losses we suffered. We need to set up defensive measures in case of another village taking advantage of our weakness. I want your clan members working on a way to improve our defenses during the rebuilding process. Once the order was acknowledged, he continued, Fugaku, Hayashi, Shibi, Sum, Chuza, we need you and some of your clans to aid in the recovery process. There may be some survivors that have yet to be found. Naruto, can you lend more clones to help out for the brunt work? Inoichi, you and your clan will be working overtime tonight. Some things were witnessed tonight that will need your clan's expertise to help stabilize. Permission authorized to alter or block memories as you see fit. The rest of you, if you have able bodies medically trained, spread the word, get them to the hospital. We have many injured in need or treatment. Meeting adjourned, we will make an announcement to the village in the morning. Umbu notified the populace of the summoning and to gather at the Hokage Tower at 0800 hours. The counselors began to file out of the room after the dismissal, all still eyeing Naruto. A few of the civilians looking at both him and the baby behind him. When Naruto looked at them, they paled and walking quickly to get out of the room. Naruto, feel free to come have a drink with us once shit calms down. The higher ranks like to drink on Friday nights. You should come out and drink with us. This Friday will no doubt be the largest gathering in some time, Chuza stated cheerfully before he began serious at the end. Naruto nodded back with a smile, since the big man was so much like his old friend Shuji. He felt cautious about going. Drunken shinobi getting wind of his Jinchuriki status. They might try something. But maybe that's why the big man wanted him there. See how he would handle himself. He heard Shikaka mutter troublesome as he also sent Naruto a lazy nod. Shikamaru's face overlapped the scarred Jonin commander's. Well, now I have more of a reason to go, Tsum said with a feral smile. She gave Naruto an obvious slow once-over look before licking her lips and walking out of the room, with a sway in her hips. Well, Naruto, you have made quite the impression. I have no doubt that the civilian counselors will spread the word about your power at the very least, Hiruzen stated as Naruto picked Naruto up and resealed the crib. Scratching the back of his head, Naruto sighed as they began to walk off. Not exactly what I wanted, Hokage Gigi, but it will help though. Only the incredibly stupid people will do something in Konoha. They might underestimate me because of my age, believing me to be inexperienced, but still. Walking into this office, he took his seat waiting for Naruto to place Naruto back into her crib before he stated, must you keep calling me Gigi? Naruto nodded seriously, and the old man sighed before he opened the drawer and tossed him 2 scrolls. That's your Jounin vest and Konoha headband in the white scroll. The second one is a spare key to Minato's property. He set it up as soon as Kushina fell pregnant. It was to be given to her to be opened once she was reached Chunin if anything happened to him. The instructions to his property, and how to get in, plus this can be like a test of sorts. It has a... Hiruzen's eyes widened when Naruto merely bit his thumb and wiped it on the seal. It glowed for a moment before vanishing. Well, that answers the question on whether you really are related to Minato, but it was reckless of you. It would have poisoned you, had you not been a relative. Naruto just put on a big grin before reading the contents. Juubi would have purified his blood of poison anyway. He let out a low whistle and at the Sandame's inquisitive gaze he stated, Minato sure was paranoid. Considering the enemies he made over the years, I can see why. Let's see, perimeter seals, blood seals on all the doors and windows. There seems to be some altered blood seal on the gate, and if this is right there's even an impressive seal that I believe keeps up a powerful barrier surrounding the property, like the one he used to keep you out while he faced Kyuubi. Another of these is on the inside of the house in case someone made it through the gate. Book look like they require chakra regularly to maintain. No wait, it stores chakra and slowly uses it up like a battery. Clever. There is technically no limit to how much can be stored then, since seals use diamond and never mind. According to the amount he usually stores in it, and assuming it is full now, it would fail in 4 years. Hiruzen sighed, in other words the place would have been ransacked or destroyed as soon as they fell, likely by the shinobi hoping to learn the Yandame's secret techniques. Greed is a common trend in the shinobi world. Also Minato didn't trust banking systems in the elemental nations, so he kept all his money in the house. Naruto would have been left with nothing. Naruto nodded, realizing that must be why he never heard of it back in his time. Very well, Naruto, I assume you can get there on your own? Yeah, interesting place for it though. Naruto was about to get up to leave when he said, there isn't anyone you know that can be trusted to watch out for Naruto. If you require me to go out on missions once my probation is other. I assume Kakashi or Obito can since they are Umbu. Hiruzen nodded with a sigh. Yes, it's village procedure to put new villagers or shinobi that come to Konoha on probation. You won't be able to leave the village for 6 months to prove your loyalty to the village. However, I will have a look on who might be suitable. I'll have someone trustworthy look into it. Then I'll present them to you after the announcement tomorrow. Agreeing, Naruto nodded before leaving the room with Naruto, and Hiruzen Sarutobi finally allowed his shinobi mask to fall. It wasn't only Minato that will be missed, or the countless shinobi that was lost tonight. His own wife was killed as she was part of the group helping Minato and Kushina during the birth. The proclaimed god of shinobi allowed the tears to fall for all those that were lost that night. Meanwhile, Naruto had decided not to walk through the village. As soon as he stepped out of the building, he created around 200 clones split into groups of 10 and aid whoever needs it, not wanting to walk through the village itself. Naruto shined directly to the outside of the house. It was in the shinobi district of the village that Naruto was pleased about, since it meant people wouldn't be as hard on Naruto there. Walking up to the gate, he had a close look at the seal. It was more detailed than an ordinary blood seal. It seemed to be tied into something that Naruto assumed was the barrier, and couldn't help but think how ingenious it was. He tried to touch an area around the seal and found that the barrier was indeed there. It was very impressive in design. It prevented anyone from getting access to the property unless they had the former Yandame's blood or Kushina's. Since Minato was an orphan and Kushina was the last of the Uzumaki clan, well, besides technically Tsunade anyway. Biting into his thumb, he wiped it over the seal and it glowed before there was a slight shimmer all over the gate before it literally vanished in a poof. Curiously, he turned around and slowly walked backwards through the new opening. As soon as he passed the threshold, the gate returned with a poof and the barrier shimmered. Naruto then walked to the 2-story house, eyeing out the area around it, and took note of the room available. Hell, he could probably summon Gamabunta if the barrier design was correct in its dimensions, with room to spare. Looking at the seal on the door, he once more swiped his hand on the seal on the door. Once it glowed and vanished, he stepped inside. He smiled lightly at the simple soft colors and simplistic design. Walking through the entrance hallway, he saw stairs straight ahead and to his left a simple living area with a few pale blue couches. Past that was the kitchen. After thoroughly looking through it, saw it was fully stocked with decent food and cooking utensils. Well, all except instant ramen, unfortunately. He let out a sigh and hoped to at least learn to cook something. He never had any need to learn to cook, since he could never afford to buy the simplest foods for the ridiculous prices he was charged in his own childhood. He would learn this time for Naruto's sake anyway. Making a note of the cupboard full of baby formula, he felt the urge to burn them all. His parents had gone overboard. Realizing how much he ordinarily eats though, well, it might be necessary in the long run. Uzumaki's got their energy from somewhere after all. His mother would have known. Walking back, he didn't go up the stairs yet and looked to find a laundry. The door opposite had another seal. This one didn't seem to be a simple blood seal either. It had a chakra absorption seal component to it though. Pumping the chakra needed for roughly 10 Kagebushin unlocked it. He noted that it didn't vanish, but the door opened with stairs heading down. Following them, he found an impressive stock of various alcohol, as well as scrolls lined up against the opposite wall. Why his parents put the alcohol in the same high-security room as the scrolls, Naruto wasn't quite sure. But Naruto had developed a liking to it after some of his senseis had pressured him into it during his 2-year training. Oddly enough, he could still get drunk. It just took much more than a normal person. B said it was because the Bijou feel the effects they do. He told the story of the drunken rantings of Hachibi. Well, from what B could actually remember. Although, he did do some interesting things that he could remember while drunk. Kissing Sakura and ending up in a wall was well worth it. Although he decided to act like that never happened, even when she tried to pursue it later down the road, he felt his feelings for her had faded over time. It just was the kiss that made him realize it. The time he awoke to kunoichi from various villages on some sort of makeshift bed freaked him out slightly, but he was able to suppress the memories unless Kurama felt like being an ass. Shaking his head of his musings, he went upstairs to find 4 rooms. One was set up to obviously be Naruko's room when she was older, a spare room, the master bedroom with a cot next to the king-size bed. The last room was something that made Naruto pale and look at Naruto in shock as comprehension suddenly dawned on him. And the punishment for one of his drunken nights. Flashback. Tsunade walked into the underground hideout that housed Killer Bee and Naruto. Looking up, the young Jinchuriki smiled. Granny Tsunade, what are you doing here? She scowled at the nickname that was given to her, then an evil smile made its way to her face. Freaking out, the blonde Jinchuriki, I hear you had an interesting night, brat. I'm here to teach you something in case you messed up. Naruto looked up in surprise and paled, realizing his antics with a certain Iwa Nin were already part of the gossip rounds. Are really a Hokage-sama? What are you gonna teach me? It was then that he heard crying and his nose twitched and he looked around in confusion. He sniffed the air and found it was coming from Tsunade's direction. Frowning, he said, no offense, Granny, but you smell really bad. Who's that with the crying baby? The woman looked like was about to stomp over and beat him into the ground, then a moment later it was gone. The evil grin came back again. Oh, it's not me, that smell is coming from Naruto. It's her. She indicated the baby before her smile widened. I'm going to teach you how to care for a baby for the next few weeks. It looks like lesson 1 is changing her diaper. W equals what? Why do I have to learn that? Naruto demanded, eyeing the baby like it was her fault. Tsunade began to cackle darkly. This is your punishment for falling for some hussy's tricks. Trying to flee here 5 times to escape other kunoichi I've heard stories from. And just because I want to. Now come here so I can show you. Naruto started to back away slowly. Get here. Now, Naruto took off running around the base with Tsunade after him. 15 minutes later, Tsunade was dragging a kicking and screaming Naruto, who looked like he had been hit by a sledgehammer in the face repeatedly, back to the baby, while she was chuckling darkly, and the attendant with the baby looked on in worry. Flashback end. Naruto suddenly realized that he would have to change. feed and bathe Naruto. He looked down at her sleeping face and flinched when her face twitched. As if she had sensed his fear, she opened her eyes slowly and looked up at him. He swallowed thickly when her face seemed to scrunch up for a moment before she began to cry. A familiar smell filled the air and he let out a loud sigh. Placing her on the table, he panicked for a moment before he made 2 Kagebushin, ordering one to go make up some formula and the second to pass him what he needed. A few minutes later, Naruto lay quietly looking around in wonder in a fresh diaper and an orange top. The first Kagebushin returned to see Naruto was thanking Granny Tsunade like some kind of god. "Ah, boss, I've got the formula here." Naruto turned and nodded before taking it and ordering it to dismiss itself. He checked the memory to make sure it was done right before picking Naruto up and putting her on his lap. "Alright, Naruto, it's no ramen, but it is good for you." He began feeding her. Naruto couldn't help but look at her curiously. The Kyuubi must already be strengthening her muscles because she was trying to hold onto the bottle herself. It could also be because of the fact she's got Uzumaki blood. They are renowned for their longevity and large chakra reserves that could be playing its part as well. Sighing, Naruto realized that anyone would see this as strange, especially those at the orphanage. He vaguely wondered if they actually fed him in those first few weeks. They probably didn't, hoping that the boy would die of starvation, but the Kyuubi would have kept him alive. Naruto ended up finishing the entire bottle and Naruto blinked before taking it away and burping her. She seemed content then, and Naruto let out a sigh before heading to the master bedroom, placing her in the cot and looking down at her. "Well, it looks like life's gotten a lot more interesting, huh, Naruto?" He couldn't help but chuckle at the concept of raising your younger self that is actually the opposite gender. With a deep sigh, knowing it was unlikely he could ever get back to his own world, since the mechanics behind his arrival to this exact point in time was unknown. Even then, he doubted he would want to go back to that world, where only a few of his friends remained alive. "I promise I'll protect you, Naruto. The parent I always wished I had growing up." He created 2 Kagebunshins to grab some formula or diapers if the need arises before laying down and trying to get some sleep. As soon as Naruto felt sleep claim him, his eyes opened to find himself looking up at a giant eye like red moon and let out a loud groan. "Well, so much for hoping I could get a quiet night's sleep. Suppose I might be able to sort some things out though." Flipping upright, he looked around trying to locate the Juubi. For such a large creature and a blank barren mindscape, you'd think it would be easy to find. Remembering the beast's earlier words, "Kurama, where are you?" Naruto roared, his voice seeming to echo endlessly. He waited 10 seconds before getting impatient, and was about to yell again when his ears twitched. Snoring. He could definitely hear loud snoring. Following the sound of the snores, he found the giant shadow beast laying on his back, tail spread out evenly, looking very relaxed. "Hey Juubi, wake up. We need to talk." One of the Juubi's rear legs kicked out a few times, followed by a dark chuckle. Annoyed, Naruto charged a Rasengan and slammed it into the beast's eyelid. Holding it for 10 seconds, he let it dissipate and let out a roar of rage. The beast didn't even twitch. Naruto had experienced this before with Kurama. It was usually when the fur ball was in a deep sleep having an exciting dream. For him, that usually meant massacring a village-size area full of multiple red-eyed people, in vicious, brutal and frankly disgusting ways. The main way Naruto knew to wake up Kurama while he in such a state was to burst out a large dosage of killing intent. The big guy would snap to attention thinking Naruto would need his chakra. Unfortunately, with Naruto so close near his body, that method was out. Another method is drawing on a lot of the Kurama's chakra, but that usually causes a disturbing feeling in the area for all other people, so that was also out as it could stir Naruto. The only other way, which Naruto hated using, was entering the beast's dreams and manually waking it up. He flinched recalling the last time he did it. Sighing in resignation since he wanted some answers, Naruto placed his hand on the beast's. Well, it sort of looked like a nose and let his mind meld with his giant partner. "Thank you, Ino Yamanaka." He appeared on top of a giant lake surrounded by mist. Curious why he couldn't hear any screams or dark laughter, he closed his eyes and pushed out his senses. His eyebrows raised when he heard a feminine voice. "Oh Jubidano, which one of us won that round?" Dark chuckling echoed throughout the area. Confusion filled Naruto's mind. Where were the painful screams and dark laughter? That chuckle sounded familiar though, usually when Kurama was having his little Uchiha begging for mercy before he slaughtered them. Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto made his way through the mist towards the area of the voices. "Impressive, you are both very skilled again." The beast let out a stream of short chuckles. "Yujuto, you showed some unorthodox techniques that had explosive results, but Mito showed the Uzumaki endurance to outlast those moves, as well as showed her own years of experience in the field. Mito is the winner. Next round, begin." Naruto's eyes widened. Yujuto was the name of one of the Jinchuriki he met, well, more like their resurrected bodies, but he did speak to her briefly. "Mito? As in Mito Uzumaki, the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi? Why would the Juubi be dreaming of them?" It sounded like he was holding some sort of tournament, not exactly Kurama's style, but he did have personalities of 8 other Bijou as well now, each of them sealed within their own Jinchuriki, now as one being. Perhaps this was his new revenge kick. Having his previous jailers beat the shit out of each other. Only Kurama had a really bad grudge against the Uchiha after all. The mist began to thin out and the sound of grunts, slaps and multiple splashes were being heard. Naruto was sure now that Juubi was having them battle from the sounds alone, and he felt himself getting excited. He only witnessed the abilities of the Jinchuriki briefly during their battle, as they went into their cloaked forms and full bijou modes shortly after. He was already well aware of Shikaku's abilities thanks to Gaara. Running faster, he kicked himself mentally. The Juubi had the experiences of all the other bijou, but that meant access to their Jinchuriki's abilities too. The things he could learn, jutsu that only one with bijou level chakra could use. It was the feeling like the start of his training all over again. Running into the area, he halted on the edge of a short waterfall. He immediately saw the massive form of the Juubi directly opposite him, sitting on what looked like some sort of massive throne, flanked by multiple red-eyed males serving him human body parts. Cringing slightly at the disgusting sight, Naruto could now clearly see what it looked like thanks to the sunlight. Still as black as night as he was in the shadows color-wise, Naruto could now see its main body in greater detail. Like Kurama, Naruto thought the Juubi just had black fur instead of red, but now he could clearly see they were razor-sharp, like Jiraiya's hair when he uses Hari Jizo. He could also now see the 7 sharp horn-like structures on its head appeared rock-hard, with a darker gray color to them, the fur non-existent. A feral grin donned its face, showing his white teeth and dark gray lips, blood stains easily noticeable. Its singular red eye focused intently on the match in front of him. When he realized he was in the mindscape again with the Juubi's eye directly in front of him, Naruto jumped back 20 feet and pointed a finger accusingly at the demon. "Oh, calm down, brat. It was just a bit of fun." Naruto once more donned a look of sheer disbelief. What the fuck? Kurama thought slaughtering was fun, sure. Not my mother chakra tail, the fuck? The beast let out a loud roar, putting Naruto on alert and shutting him up at once. "Don't forget, you little shit, I am not Kurama alone now. When I was split into 9, each took on a main trait of me. Shikaku, my insanity; Matatabi, my perversion; Isabu, my paranoia; Son Goku, my honor; Koko, my etiquette; Saiken, my patience; Chome, my immaturity; Gyuki, my logic; and Kurama, my rage. Those traits grew more concentrated over the centuries. Now I am one once more." The Juubi stared at Naruto intently with its massive eye to see if the boy understood. Naruto sat down with that look on his face that clearly stated, "I don't really get it." "Give me a minute." The Juubi knew from Kurama that it would take a small while, so closed his eye for a moment. "I get you're now perverted." The eye snapped open to glare at the boy. "But why were you looking at human females? Aren't there female demons out there to fantasize about?" "Not that I'm suggesting you ever actually did that, as that would be truly disturbing and something that would probably scar me for." Another roar stopped the rant from continuing. "I have been sealed in a total of 323 humans, as you put it, 237 of them males. 185 of them were perverts of some degree. I have assimilated all of these hosts' memories, as well as the females, as in memories of their private moments. Do you honestly believe, even if the 7 others cared nothing for it, that the perverted mind of Nibi and the immaturity of Nanabi that are now a part of me is not on overdrive from all these memories?" Naruto just blinked. Here he had a source of endless supply of perverted material. If Ero Sennin was in his shoes, Naruto was sure the super pervert would have a heart attack. Especially cause he could physically watch the scenes as if he were there. If the Juubi allowed it, he had done that a few times with Kurama, like showing him what he looked like when he first was split from Juubi. Hell, maybe Naruto should start his own series to compete with Jiraiya. When he was still an innocent, naive little 14-year-old, he proofread all the man's drafts. He knew he could write a much more appealing story, especially if he used scenes like Fu was about to do earlier. Naruto couldn't help the blush that came and the perverted giggle that followed, but he did jump with the teeth baring and the loud feral growling that the beast had. I see." Naruto looked around the area, confusing the great chakra beast before whispering slowly, "What kind of memories are we talking about?" "So you finally show your true colors, pervert." Naruto looked up at the smirking Cyclops with an annoyed frown. He looked close to retorting before Juubi decided to cut him off. "What did you interrupt me for, child? It better be important." Blinking in surprise, Naruto got his head on straight. "Fine. Well, first off, why was I pulled here when I fell asleep?" The Juubi looked at Naruto with a narrowed eye. "You mean you did not come here willingly?" When Naruto shook his head, Juubi closed his eye and seemed to be in thought. "Interesting. This only happened when there was a problem with the seal, a way for the bijou to torment their host or trap their mind and take control of their body while their mind rests. I believe you are aware of such a case, with the one called Gaara." Naruto's eyes widened and looked close to going into panic mode. Then the Juubi snorted. "Kid, even if I could, I don't really feel like rampaging right now. I just got my body and mind whole again. Besides, I'm not bound here unwillingly by a seal. I chose to reside here when I reformed. Although if I did leave, you would have died." Naruto found this interesting, though it would make sense since he wasn't blown up by the formation of the Juubi as Kurama expected, saying that, if the legends are true, the body that can hold the Juubi is in the moon. Somehow Naruto thought that the Juubi would have had to find a host to reside in, even if it wasn't Naruto, as the chakra body constructs of the 9 other bijou were destroyed when they merged. With Juubi's body on the moon, he chose to reside in Naruto rather than the nearest other vessel, the Uchiha. "So you want to be in here?" Chuckling darkly once more, the beast simply replied, "You managed to convince all 9 parts of me to put their faith in you. I am all 9 in one form. I'm interested in what you will accomplish in your lifetime. Besides, you'll only live for 90 more years. I'm immortal. I will go on long after you are gone. It's much more interesting in here than it would be rampaging and destroying all of life anyway." Conceding to the Juubi's point, He wanted to know the next major question floating around in his mind. So these silver Sharingan, what exactly makes them different to the normal one? Naruto's sweat dropped when the bastard began scratching himself before he gave a nonchalant shrug of his shoulders. Great, so you altered my eyes and have no idea what it can do. Just great. Stop whining, I did it based on pure instinct. But you are the combination of the sage's descendants, the Uzumaki are relatives to the Senju, and you had a Sharingan eye. Body and soul are one again, meaning with me now inside you, you have all the pieces that the old man himself had. I wouldn't be surprised if he cast some sort of instruction for me to give to the person who puts me back together, and becomes a worthy Jinchuriki. Not that I actually remember anything from that time, he wiped our minds when he split us. Naruto's sweat dropped as he was sure the Juubi was doing its own version of a pout. Processing the words, Naruto muttered out, except the Rinnegan, isn't that what the sage was famous for? Naruto responded with a huff, it would have been cool to have those eyes. Nagato was pure awesomeness with all those gravity-like attacks. Then Madara and his bullshit spamming too. Kid, I wouldn't be surprised if those eyes make the Rinnegan look like child's play after all. The sage was a true master of the chakra arts, able to create life from nothing with his knowledge and ability. But the man knew he couldn't bring true peace with the creation of life. The Juubi truly was curious what Naruto would do with all the power he obtained, perhaps succeed where his original host could not. Great, so all I find out from you after all this is 1, you don't want to escape, and 2, you're a pervert. I'm probably going to be brought here every time I try to go to sleep. So, about those memories, with a roll of his gigantic eye the Juubi lowered his head, allowing Naruto to connect to his mind. Then they entered one of his first host's memories. By the end of the night, he was sure to have Naruto whimpering. Naruto was awoken 3 hours later when his clone dispelled. The first host's memories were okay. The guy was spying on 2 very attractive women doing some very interesting things. But once that ended and Juubi saw the enthusiasm Naruto had to see the next one, he showed him something else completely. Naruto just had the horrible experience of witnessing his own conception, while the Juubi blocked off his ability to escape with some sort of weird body bind. He couldn't even close his eyes, with the beast's continuous insane laughter. The young time traveler should have realized it would try something like that after what he witnessed earlier, but seriously, his parents were going at it for nearly 2 hours. He couldn't deny his mother had some crazy no, he wouldn't even go there. Once he took a few shaky breaths to make sure that he was indeed awake, he heard the crying of Naruto. Reality once more smacked him hard mentally. Naruto really was stuck back in time with the younger version of himself being a girl. He would raise her, give her the family he never had, and make her the strongest kunoichi the elemental nations had ever seen. He even considered if it might be possible to pass on his new Jujutsu onto her. Maybe use that interrogation technique Ino taught him to enter a prisoner's mind and have Juubi teach Kurama how to give it to her. Opening his eyes, he saw his Kage Bunshins race out of the room as he got himself up. Walking over, he looked down into the cot to see Naruto had stopped crying when he had come into view. She was watching him with large curious eyes. Did the girl somehow know that the others were merely clones, because from the memories he got from the clone that dispelled, well, it was doing the exact same thing he was now. With a sniff, not smelling anything, and a sigh, he stated, "You're not going to make this easy, are you, Naruto-chan?" The first clone ran back into the room holding basically half of the infant room as Naruto had dubbed it. The clone breathed heavily and managed to get out, "Boss, I've got everything. What do you need?" Naruto blinked at the clone curiously. He had discovered clones sometimes gained specific traits from him when they were made, instead of complete copies. The creator simple stated, "Surely you could have just sniffed and realized she doesn't need to be changed. I think she just wants attention." The clone smiled sheepishly and was about to walk back out of the room to return the things he brought, when Naruto began to cry and a familiar scent filled the air. Naruto's eyebrows twitched and he looked down at the infant who had stopped crying when the attention was back on her, and was looking back up innocently. "Why, you did that on purpose, didn't you, Naruto exclaimed, pointing an accusatory finger at the newborn Jinchuriki. As he finished changing the girl's diaper, the second clone came running and got the formula. "Boss," with a nod from Naruto, he stated, "Good work, mission complete. Dismiss yourselves, both of you." Both clones saluted before doing so, and after checking that it was done correctly, he fed Naruto, who finished the entire bottle again. After she was burped and put back in the cot, she went straight to sleep. "Who would have thought you would be so good with babies? I wonder if how many the council will try to force you to make when they discover your little eye problem," Juubi teased, after watching his host handle the younger opposite gender self. "You can thank Granny Tsunade for that," Naruto responded before he paused. "Fuck, they're going to make me do the CRA. With me being a male and last of the clan, I don't have the excuse of being the hated demon this time." He created 3 more Kage Bunshins. "Alright, you know the drill." Instead of going back to sleep, however, he made his way out of the room. "Where are you going, boss?" one clone asked as his creator turned back to the 3. Giving a sheepish grin and scratching his head, he muttered, "I don't think I can go back to sleep anytime soon. Besides, need to recharge the barrier seal. Key to the perimeter seal so I can sense what happens like Minato apparently could, plus to do an inventory of what we got here. I haven't eaten since I got here. Food and distractions are needed." After that, all the Narutos shivered as the loud moans that seemed to reappear in their minds. The clones saluted and Naruto headed down to the basement first. He did want to do an inventory check, but he really needed a drink now too. Who gets turned on from witnessing your own conception? Granted, he has no true memories of his parents or anything, but still now he realizes he'll probably have to marry at least someone to bear him a few more children. The council likely didn't mention it since he hasn't been declared a clan head and is on probation. Once that is done and they discover there is no mother in the picture for Naruto. Naruto looked at the seal on the door once more. A seal like this could potentially be lethal to many ninja without the chakra of multiple elite jonin of Kakashi and Gai's caliber. Very clever to build a blood seal that requires not only a relative, but one with insane chakra reserves. Since only one chakra signature could be stored to activate the seal, if another tried to add their chakra, it would dispel the stored chakra and begin anew. The question was, why didn't Tsunade ever tell him about the house? The important stuff was clearly in this room, so should be his by right. Naruto highly doubted anyone actually managed to get in, he hadn't checked. But seeing the paranoia his father seemed to have, the inside was probably laced full of protection seals too. Did the seal malfunction at some point in time? Did someone manage to break through it? Then he noticed one part of the seal he didn't recognize, raking his brain for a few minutes. His eyes widened considerably when he recalled what it might be. The one type of seal that would be useless to chakra powerhouse like him to learn, a simple genjutsu tied into the blood seal. Did that mean only one with Namikaze or maybe Uzumaki blood could even see the door? It would have to be Namikaze, otherwise Tsunade would have been able to access it. Seal master my ass, the guy was a freaking genius. Or maybe it was Mom, she would have inherited whatever was left of Yuzashiro, Naruto declared with a stupefied expression. Shrugging off his role model's inventions, he opened the door and went down. Immediately he looked at the arrangement of alcohol and grabbed the cheapest of the lot, popped it open and took a large swig. He flicked through some of scrolls laying on the shelves, many being techniques Itachi and Kakashi had shown him. At first he thought perhaps Kakashi had access to the room in his timeline, acquiring the scrolls sometime, but dismissed it. The man had the Sharingan and was in Umbu. There was nothing on the Rasengan or Hiraishin, but since he knew both anyway. Naruto also had completed the Rasengan, and he had speed close to the Hiraishin when he channeled his Biju's Yuki in Sage mode. Thus he didn't really see a point to needing the scrolls for them anyway. With his use of shadow clones, technically he could create the same effect as his father's famous jutsu. Eventually he found a large scroll with the kanji for Ryo on it. Channeling chakra into it, there was a large pop and burst of smoke. When it cleared, Naruto's eyes widened in shock. The amount of Ryo in front of him would put the Hyuga clan to shame. He sealed a decent proportion into a separate scroll and put some into his Gamma wallet before sealing the rest back into the large scroll and putting it back on the rack. Looking around once more, noticed nothing of any real significance for the moment. He finished off his bottle and went up to recharge the barrier wards. Naruto pulled out the instructions he got from the Hokage office, then used the scroll that lead him to the southwest side of the property. After looking around in confusion, not seeing the seal, he absently began to run his hand along the barrier. Naruto's eyes widened when he felt what he could only describe as a tiny gap in the barrier, only large enough after he ran his hand over it again for a finger. Doing so, he put his finger through and channeled chakra into the area. An extremely large elaborate design appeared on the wall, and looking at it he was surprised the perimeter seal was integrated into it, as well as a blood seal that would prevent anyone from stealing the property, or the seal design if they got in. Another clever part of it was the way his father had somehow made the seal permanently invisible to the naked eye. On a whim, Naruto removed his finger and waited until the seal faded. Activating his silver Sharingan-like eyes, Naruto found he couldn't see the seal at all. The barrier was barely seen as a shimmer, but the seal itself was completely invisible. That meant that after the barrier ran out of chakra, finding the seal itself would have proved difficult if not impossible for anyone searching for it, since it only accepts chakra at the exact point he touched from the design. Jiraiya told him, of course, how much of a genius his old student was in Fuinjutsu, but the word is simply not enough to describe it. No wonder the Uzumaki were wiped out during the last war. If they could design a seal as effective as this barrier, what's to stop them from making one to attack? Armies of Hiraishin users, for example, giant explosive tags with the power to wipe out a village. It made Naruto wonder why so few ninja used Fuinjutsu, other than simple sealing scrolls or explosive tags, of course. Naruto nipped his finger before placing the now bloody digit back into the hole. He steadily began to channel chakra into it, and the seal began to glow, slowly at first, then brightly. Gazing around, Naruto took note that the barrier had become visible. As he began to channel more and more chakra, he saw the barrier went from a wavy-like structure to solid, until it looked like thick glass. Guess it was closer to failing than I thought. I wonder how long since Minato charged it, he thought before an idea came to him. With a cheeky grin, Naruto decided he now wanted to test it out after putting so much chakra into it. Thinking of what to use that wouldn't damage the yard, he charged up a Great Ball Rasengan. With a war cry, he slammed the large Rasengan into the barrier. The first thing Naruto immediately noticed was the barrier was far more advanced than the one he broke through earlier. This barrier seemed to channel more chakra to the point of the attack to add extra protection, so his Rasengan didn't even crack it. Naruto was certain even some of his Sage attacks wouldn't be able to get through. Hell, maybe even some of the lower-tailed Bijudamas. With that barrier fully charged up, he saw the sun was coming up and seemed to be around 6 a.m. if his judgment on the position was right. Walking inside, he narrowed his eyes when he saw all the food in the fridge. Despite living off ramen for so many years, Naruto was forced to learn the bare basics of surviving in the wild from Jiraiya, saying that Naruto knew he was a hopeless case. It was then he noticed a shelf full of books. Considering it was a kitchen, he grabbed one out. Cooking Basics, for the Brainless Shinobi Kami. This is perfect. Opening the book, he began to read and was shocked at how much sense it made. They made it sound like preparing food was like a form of training. He created a few clones and got them to reading some of the other books. 30 minutes later had Naruto with an ear-splitting grin looking down at his creation. It was an omelette with his own additions, of course. The book said to try and experiment. Closing his eyes, Naruto took a few deep sniffs before taking his chopsticks and picking a piece up. After a few bites he exclaimed loudly, "It's almost as good as ramen no Naruto." Blasphemy. As soon as he finished it he got the memories of the Kage Bunshin that alerted him to Naruto waking. Already awake and hungry. No wonder they thought I was a demon, he muttered before creating a clone. Bring her downstairs and punching the clone to dispel it. Getting up he began making Naruto some formula. Boss, I changed her myself, his clone stated proudly as he brought Naruto into the room. She made a few funny gurgling sounds as the clone put her into the high chair. Clone number 2 set up. Naruto's sweat dropped at the statement. Did the clone not realize he was talking to his creator? Good work, soldier. I know it must have been rough. Dispel. The clone saluted before doing so, and Naruto laughed at the memories of the clones panicking when Naruto didn't stop crying. As he began to feed Naruto, he realized just how lucky his younger counterpart's life would be, compared to his or probably the other Jinchuriki too. After she was fed he also decided to give her a bath. Thanks to Kurama, she seemed to be developing faster than expected. Tsunade had pointed out to him, children with high chakra reserves like those in the Akimichi clan or the Uzumaki, tended to utilize their chakra instinctually from birth, meaning not as many steps as a civilian child would need. Thus Naruto found himself watching the infant that seemed extremely curious of the water, if the constant movement was any indication. Leaving a few clones with her he then went to the bathroom to shower himself. That ended up being a very short shower as the young girl seemed to sense the real him wasn't in the room and began bawling her eyes out. Seriously, how did she know? Was Kurama being and doing something to her every time he sensed him leave? Some sort of mild revenge kick? Once he wiped Naruto quickly dry, he put on a nappy before putting her in a cotton orange top with the Uzumaki symbol on the back. Seemed he was destined to wear orange if his parents had bought him similar colored clothes. Naruto dressed in his umbu-style pants, a long-sleeved shirt and his first jounin flak jacket ever. Tsunade still refused to give him a field promotion even though he was stronger than the Kages themselves. Once his headband was on he went to the mirror. A frown appeared when he saw his new appearance. He remembered that Niji Kurenai didn't wear the flak jacket but he relented since he had never got past Genin. So if Tsunade could see him wherever she was, he could say HH plus the jacket still held the Uzumaki clan symbol on its back. Naruto wanted to head by the Hokage's office early knowing that he and Naruto would be needed for the announcement. He sealed a change table, some spare nappies, wipes and a few bottles of formula just in case. Picking up Naruto, he placed her in a harness he attached around his flak jacket. Even though he knew he could shunshin directly to the tower, he decided to walk amongst the villagers. Just like the night before, there were people openly staring at him with various emotions. The counselors must have rushed to warn the populace not to piss him off cause he could see the concern and fear on some of their faces. Naruto almost felt like laughing when he noticed the shocked looks when he gave the more terrified civilians friendly smiles and waves. They reached the Hokage's office and entered, ignoring the secretary's protests that he was busy right now. He always ignored her growing up. He never really understood why the old man kept her around despite her clear biased opinion of him at the time. But hey, she was attractive, so maybe that had something to do with it. Hey Hokage Gigi. The man's eyebrow twitched in annoyance. He looked up to see Naruto in his Konoha gear with Naruto strapped up. Nodding politely he responded, "Good morning Naruto. I was about to send out someone to get you." He waved out the secretary who had followed Naruto into the room. She seemed shocked that this stranger was actually allowed to stay before eyeing him again, blushing lightly when Naruto gave her a cheeky smile as she left the room. Scratching the back of his head with his trademark grin he shrugged as an answer. "Figured you'd want us to be here early. I am curious though, are you going to reveal me as a relative to Minato after you confirmed it?" The Hokage let out a sigh. "Well, while your resemblance is uncanny, as it was stated, releasing that information would only provoke interest of other villages. I was able to convince the council of this. Held that information even won over a few of the civilian members, especially after I pointed out most bloodlines originated from Jinchuriki. Held the sage of the six paths himself was one. But to answer your question, no, we won't reveal that information. It will remain with the council alone. However, we have decided a worthy opponent you will have a fight to prove your skill to the populace, to not only show your skill and power to the civilians, but prove to the shinobi forces that you deserve your rank. Generally, regardless of skill, after probation a new shinobi is placed as a chunin until he gains the respect of the higher ranks." Hiruzen took out his pipe and lit it before continuing. "However, this would be an unwise decision considering your skill and the state of the village. We need to nip any shinobi believing you are being favored by me now. Thus the person you have been tasked to fight was chosen. Even the spies should spread word to travel to all villages of your considerable skill. I advise you not to use your Jinchuriki abilities or that jujitsu of yours, however." Naruto nodded in understanding. "So who have you chosen for me to humiliate in public, and when will this battle happen Hokage Gigi?" The tick mark reappeared on Hiruzen's head and he growled, "Will you stop calling me that? It's actually good you arrived early. I have sent my umbu out to collect Kushina and Minato's most trusted advisors and friends, who likely will suspect something amiss with you and young Naruko during the announcement. You were able to convince the council so easily since none were truly close to Kushina or Minato except Shikaku. I still believe he suspects something amiss, but he doesn't see you as a threat to Naruko or the village. This is not the case with these individuals. I ask you to try to convince them that Naruko is your daughter. I pray that your DNA is close enough to Naruko's to solidify anything we say if they demand proof. They should be arriving soon." Naruto looked affronted. "What? Why would I stop calling you old? You are. Shikaku won't do anything unless he considers me a threat to Minato's legacy or the village. As for the group, I was told that Mikoto Uchiha was the closest to Kushina, to the point she knew she was calling Naruko by that name. She will be the hardest to convince. Genma, Reito, Kaido, Kakashi, possibly Rin will likely be difficult to completely convince as well. Obito seems fine already." The old Hokage sent simply a grunt to agree with that statement, once more proving how much Naruto seemed to have gained the trust of his successor. The Sandaime Hokage let out a plume of smoke. "My former student Jiraiya will return sometime within a week. I sent word of Minato's death and your arrival. He will be the one to test you personally. He is also one of Minato and Kushina's closest allies, possibly the greatest. He will be the hardest to convince." Jiraiya saw Minato as his own son. Looking surprised, Naruto exclaimed, "So I have to take on Jiraiya of the Sannin, self-declared super pervert of the elemental nations and the one who practically taught and raised Minato?" After the Hokage's nod, his trademark grin returned and he laughed. "This will be fun. What will be the rules?" The Hokage waved his hand dismissively. "Hasn't been decided. Considering whether we can set up a suitable barrier, it will be a demonstration of tactics, jutsu knowledge and ability." A knock at the door disrupted any further discussion. "Enter." Hiruzen stated loudly as he undid the seal on the room. As soon as the whole group entered, "Umbu, guard the entrance. No one is to enter." Once they were out, the old man sealed the room up again. Looking around at the other occupants in the room, Genma shifted the samban in his mouth and stated, "I take it this has to do with Minato. Kushina and the Kyuubi attack Hokage-sama." The old man let out a sigh. "Indeed. As you know, I called for an announcement to explain the details of what happened last night. There are some things that you all we need to know. Minato and Kushina's last wishes for one. I was there, as was Naruto and his daughter here." Hiruzen gauged their reactions towards Naruto and Naruko, to try and determine who might suspect Naruko to actually being Minato and Kushina's child. Mikoto, Genma and Kakashi all had their eyes narrowed in the young man's direction. Rin, Reito and Kaido all had curious looks on their faces, while Obito was just grinning like a fool. He was likely the one who would have been the most vocal, so Hiruzen was glad he seemingly had put his faith in the young charge of Naruko's. At the mention of daughter, Mikoto looked straight towards the infant in the harness. She saw the similarities between the man and the child she was certain must be Kushina and Minato's. Suspecting the whisker marks to be an elaborate henge, she activated her Sharingan, but saw nothing amiss, except the fact his chakra was like a blazing inferno. His reserves must be at least the level of a tailed beast. Even the taijutsu member on her team during the war that died after using all 8 gates didn't have this much raw chakra. The shock must have appeared on her face as she caught the young Minato lookalike tilting his head curiously at her. "Haha, I did that as soon as I saw them too." Auntie Mikoto blinked before releasing her Sharingan, and looked at her nephew Obito, who had a big grin on his face. The fact the boy wasn't as suspicious as her about the man eased some of her worry for the moment. After all, he thought of Minato as a father, since Fugaku thought he was a useless excuse for a member of their clan and regularly told the boy that, if Obito believed the man was a threat to Kushina's child, he would be glaring as hard as his teammate currently is. Kakashi was just downright suspicious. He knew his sensei was expecting a baby girl soon, but Obito had told him repeatedly that there was no henge or genjutsu on the young man or the infant. The supposed father-daughter duo looked too much alike to not be related. Then there was the fact he claimed sensei thought he was family at the council meeting. There is no way sensei wouldn't have told them that much at least, even if it was merely a suspicion on Minato's belief. Not to mention the fact that the man knew Rasengan and Kushina-sama's clan technique. As soon as the council meeting ended, Kakashi and Obito gathered Rin from the hospital, then go a position to be able to spy on their sensei's home. If he was related, the man would surely try to get into the Namake's property. To all three's shock, the man had been able to enter the property. That was all Rin and Obito needed to believe he was trustworthy. But Kakashi knew something was amiss. He would be keeping a close eye on this new guy that looked sort of like his sensei, this Naruto Uzumaki. Genma, on the other hand, was the leader of the late Hokage's personal guard. He knew for a fact that child was his leader and Kushina-sama's child. Yet the child was too similar in appearance to this new guy. Not to mention he saw the Uchiha's face, and Obito's outburst confirmed for him that there was no genjutsu altering their appearances. So what exactly happened last night then, Hokage-sama? Perhaps details would fill in the gaps of what had happened. Blowing out a plume of smoke, the aged Hokage let out another long sigh when Minato teleported the Kyuubi out of the village. I and 2 of my personal guard took off to provide whatever aid he might need. When we arrived, we found an impenetrable barrier with Minato, Kushina and the Kyuubi within. I tried to break through the barrier, but as I stated, it was impenetrable, or so I thought. But Naruto here charged a Rasengan, and punctured a hole through it just after Minato sealed some of the Kyuubi's chakra into himself to weaken the beast. He saw the questioning eyes of Mikoto when he stated it was just Kushina and Minato, but didn't mention their child. He held up his hand to prevent any interruptions until he finished. Naruto blocked the claw meant to maim Minato and Kushina with brute force, before throwing the Kyuubi onto his back and pinning it down with the Uzumaki-style chains. Looks of pure disbelief went towards Naruto, who chuckled nervously, and scratched the back of his head with a goofy grin. A conversation seemed to take place. Kushina was crying and hugged Naruto tightly, while Minato too had tears and seemed to be having words with Naruto here. I couldn't hear anything because of distance between us, and they were speaking quietly. Perhaps we can hear what happened from you in greater detail shortly. Naruto, once he received a nod of assent, he continued. Naruto then offered his daughter up for the sealing, and Minato was able to seal the beast into young Naruto. Mikoto couldn't take much anymore. Uchiha pride be damned, what do you mean his daughter, Hokage-sama? What happened to Minato and Kushina's child? All present were aware of the pregnancy, and also wanted to know the details as well. Hiruzen sent the woman a glare that she returned with just as much heat, Sharingan blazing. The individual Minato spoke to me about just before sealing the Kyuubi away killed their child, as well as the mother of my daughter and the Anbu escort guarding them. While Kushina was giving birth, Naruto spoke, his voice cold as he thought of that masked bastard that was responsible for so much hatred and pain within the elemental nations. For decades, the Hokage sent Naruto a shocked look before his face hardened, his eyes just as cold. He clenched the desk tightly, causing audible cracks to be heard in the room. Somehow the man kept himself from leaking any killing intent, though you know the person that is responsible for all of this. The people in the room were shocked at the edge in their leader's voice. Naruto understood though. His mother told him the story after all. Biwako Sarutobi was the midwife helping Kushina through the birthing process, which meant she was one of those killed by the masked bastard. I don't know him by name, only by reputation. He is someone that has been believed to be dead for years, although I'm not entirely convinced that he is who he claims. Anyway, Minato described him to me. This man had the Kyuubi under his control. The pieces fell into place, formed that alone. As I stated to you, Hokage-sama, I moved around a lot over the years. I know quite a bit about the internal conflicts in the other villages. This man seems to be behind quite a lot of those. One of them being the internal conflict that was likely soon escalate into all-out war in Kiri. I will discuss the details another time in private, Hokage-sama. If word got out who is responsible, it could lead to the destruction of Konoha. Needless to say, that child was killed, Mikoto. I named my daughter the same name as what they planned to call their child, out of respect for them both. The Hokage was seething. The information was right in front of him, and he wanted to know the person responsible for not only his wife's death, but all the other villagers and shinobi that lost their lives the previous night. But Naruto was right in this case. From the hint he just gave, the man responsible was likely from one of the major clans of the village. Only one clan could possibly have the knowledge behind controlling the Kyuubi. From Mikoto's tensing, she probably realized this implication as well. He also was impressed by Naruto's wordplay. He had flawlessly gone with his insinuated backstory, but bringing up such a thing about the true perpetrator pushed away the possibility of Naruto not being his child, also covering his own lack of having a mother of Naruto to show to the populace without coming out as a cliché the Kyuubi killed her. Very well, Naruto, but you will tell me everything after the announcement. So you're planting a few seeds to get them on the right track. How will you keep Mikoto quiet though? She may relay the information to the Uchiha Council, speeding up their attempt at a coup. Juubi warned Naruto. While it seemed like a sound plan, it had the potential to backfire greatly. Fugaku wouldn't allow it, not until he sees what I can do for sure. Now I know I'm fighting Jiraiya, I'll be able to show more of my power, enough to have the Uchiha clan squirming. They won't do anything either way unless I get sent out of the village for a long period. Besides, the planning for the coup according to Itachi only truly began around 3 years from now, after the failed Hyuga kidnapping incident. It's also roughly when Danzo discovered Orochimaru's research, and wished to get his hands on some red eyes. The Juubi said nothing, which meant he understood. Taking a deep breath to calm down, Hiruzen finished the meeting regardless of the details. I called you all here as I'm sure many of you would have been suspicious of Naruto, and his daughter being chosen by Minato to seal the Kyuubi. Naruto has already proven to the council that he has the trust of both Minato and Kushina. He knows both the Rasengan and the Uzumaki-style chains, and the Hiraishin, except it's a pain to use. I can move close to that speed without it. It's a waste of chakra, plus I feel like it's cheating and it takes the fun away out of what? Wide eyes met that statement. Even the Hokage was staring at him in shock. Suppose you want a demonstration on sealing the crib. He stuck Naruto in it. He bit his thumb and ran it across his forearm, causing a tri-pronged kunai to pop into his hand. Ignoring the muttering of disbelief, he tossed the kunai just above Mikoto's head, vanished in a red flash and caught it again. He repeated the process to get back next to Naruto and looked around curiously. It was Genma that taught him the Hiraishin in the future. With his own knowledge of seals, he altered the color to red. It literally took the Hokage around 30 seconds to compose himself. Chusa might have been right after all. This young man was like Kami in the flesh. Shaking his head, he stated, okay. I was going to add that he was able to access the Namikaze property with his own blood, meaning he is actually related to either Minato or Kushina. From his appearance, I would say former. As the group were standing slack-jawed, Hiruzen muttered to himself, not to mention he is a fucking powered-up Minato. Can he help whoever becomes his enemy? Clearing his throat, the Hokage finished regardless. He was formally adopted into the Uzumaki clan just yesterday, in fact. As such, with the second Uzumaki and young Naruto here, Naruto will also formally be made head of the Uzumaki clan in 6 months once his probationary period is over. Do any of you dispute anything you have heard today? Rado let out an annoyed sigh after that little demonstration. I don't think anyone could dispute the guy Hokage-sama. Minato would never have taught those moves to anyone who didn't trust explicitly. Being a trustworthy relative of our former charge, know that you can ask us for aid if you require it, Uzumaki. Naruto looked over when he saw Kakashi shaking. Before he could say anything though, the young umbushell cracked. Just who are you? How are you so strong? I have never met you before, yet you know Sensei's strongest attacks. It's too convenient. I don't believe you. I don't trust you. I won't, Kakashi roared. The Hiraishin pushed him over the edge. His father-like figure is now dead. This random shinobi conveniently pops up out of nowhere, knows all his sensei's attacks, seems to be significantly more powerful, and appears to be a relative. It's like he's trying to erase Minato-sensei from the world. If he were to use the Hiraishin in battle, would people forget his sensei's contributions? As if unconsciously he moved his hands to go in a hand sign. In that instant Naruto had Kakashi pinned to the wall on the opposite side of the room by the neck with a Rasengan inches from his face. The Hokage and Mikoto, who had her Sharingan on from Kakashi's outburst, were the only ones that saw him move. Before anyone reacted, Naruto stated, I couldn't ever replace Minato Namake's kid, nor would I ever want to. The Hiraishin was his attack, his legacy. I would never use it in battle to dishonor his name. Trust is earned, Kakashi. I don't expect anyone in this room or village to trust me outright. But if I wanted to, Naruto's eyes turned silver with black slits and his killing intent flooded the room. I could burn this place to the ground, and there is no one in this village that could stop me. He looked into Kakashi's eyes coldly and whispered quietly as Naruto began to cry, not the Hokage, not all the shinobi in this village working together, certainly not you alone. Do not push me, brat. Letting Kakashi drop to the floor on his ass, shaking at how close he actually came to death. Naruto jumped back with his head bowed as his back was turned to the group. As he calmed Naruto down, he let out a nervous chuckle. Sorry, Gigi, kid has a stick shoved up his ass. Kakashi, I hate bastards like you. You remind me of a love child of 2 people I used to know. His sudden change in demeanor had all in the room on edge except the Hokage. Honestly, he was impressed at the boy's ability to switch from ninja mode to civilian, as he liked to call it. Anyway, I had no blood relatives growing up, no one to help me. I was truly alone. Konoha is finally a place that I can protect with my power. I will protect Konoha. I will protect my daughter. If it came down at Kakashi, I would go out of my way to protect you too. I gave my word to Minato and Kushina I would, all of you, this whole village. I never break a promise I've made. I will protect Konoha until the day I die. That's my nindo. Let me tell you all a little something. The man responsible for last night is the man I want dead. He killed the mother of my child. Naruto's head was down as he turned back around. He looked up again. His eyes silver still with black slits, whisker marks thicker, canines large. Gasps came from a few in the room and the rest to go on guard. He's the reason I have a beast inside of me that makes the Kyuubi look like a puppy. He's the reason I have lost all of my precious people before I even had a chance to say goodbye to them. I will not allow this man to continue spreading hate to the world. He will die, Kakashi. So if nothing else, remember this, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I am no threat to you or your sensei's memories. The room was quiet processing the man's words. All were surprised at the words but all agreed, even Kakashi. This Naruto Uzumaki was no threat to the village. Hiruzen sent Naruto a harsh glare but knew what he said alleviated the last of his concerns. Letting out a resigned sigh, he spoke, nothing in this room is to be repeated under S-rank law. Kakashi, although I don't approve of Naruto's actions, know that he has proven to have Minato's trust as well as my own and the council. If that and his abilities don't convince you, then as your Hokage, I command you to stop your foolish behavior. This statement got shocked looks from everyone in the room, as there was not just a command, but almost a plead, as if he feared Naruto himself. Now I do believe it is time for the announcement. Dismissed. As Team Minato went towards the door, Kakashi sent a frightened look Naruto's way. Obito looked intrigued and Rin looked worried. Naruto just smiled and waved at them cheerfully, again confusing all 3 teens greatly. The Yandame's personal guard didn't seem too bothered and cleared out. Hiruzen noted Mikoto remained behind. Signaling her to speak, she stated, is the man you hunt an Uchiha? Naruto let out a tired sigh. Looking over at her sadly, he stated, you already know the answer to that question, Mikoto, married to the clan head. I know you haven't forgotten the history of some of your clan. She nodded her head sadly, and he felt an odd feeling rise up. Do not blame yourself for something out of your control, Mikoto. This man does not speak for your clan. However, if word got out of his involvement and bloodline, the village will be after your clan's blood. I ask that you not tell your clan either, though, no offense. But with the history of this village in relation to your clan, this may push them over the edge to act. That would be a shame if the mighty Uchiha ended up like the Uzumaki. Mikoto's eyes widened at the insinuation. It was basically, if your clan disrupts the peace, they will be erased. She bowed her head to them both. Thank you for the advice, Naruto. Hokage-sama. As she was leaving, Naruto added, I would like to speak to you privately sometime, Mikoto. You were a good friend to Kushina. Perhaps you might like to be one to me too. Chusa spoke of drinks on Friday between higher-ranked members of the shinobi community. You and Fugaku should come, at the very least to alleviate any fears that might spread if you did not. The woman stiffened again at the insinuation, but turned back around, this time with a slight smile. I will consider it. She bowed her head lightly before walking out of the room, deep in thought. You have the makings of a leader, Naruto Hiruzen commented as he donned his Hokage hat and walked out of the room once Naruto had hooked Naruto up. Chuckling lightly, Naruto followed the statement, Nah, I don't want your hat, Hokage-sama. Stuck in an office doing paperwork all day. No thanks. The old man chuckled himself, while mentally crying anime tears. Walking onto the platform over the large gathered crowd, the council was already gathered around the podium. Naruto stood between Tsum and Hayashi, after she waved him over while the Sandaime took to the podium itself. Citizens of Konohagakure all talking ceased completely when their leader began to talk. Last night, a terrible event occurred. The Kyuubi no Yoko attacked us and we lost our beloved Yondaime Hokage and many of our villagers, shinobi and homes during the attack. Murmuring, angry outbursts and many let their heads hang at the confirmation of their former leader's death broke out. As I'm sure many of you are aware by now, the beast was not killed, but sealed away at the cost of the Yondaime's life. Now the talking got louder and the standing Hokage had to raise his hand for silence, which was soon granted. However, there is only one method of sealing a beast as powerful as the Kyuubi. That is sealing it into a newborn baby. More murmuring broke out and one brave civilian shouted at them the demon should die while it's weakened, which resulted in a wave of approval throughout the crowd. Before the Hokage could silence them, a massive wave of killing intent was felt throughout the area for a few moments before it vanished. Everyone was looking around in fear. Naruto was naturally the source of the intent, and the Hokage turned to him slowly while sending him a glare. After getting a mere shrug and a grin, he turned back to the crowd. He blinked when Naruto was suddenly standing in front of the podium and holding Naruto up in the air. Does my daughter look like the Kyuubi, you dumbass? Naruto heard the council's murmurs and he felt the Hokage's glare, but the young man ignored it. Naruto bellowed out, let me rephrase it, you dumb fucking civilian. The man, like many in the crowd, had already been told of who this man was, so he had the smarts to actually not talk back right away. Let me ask you all, do you wish to release the Kyuubi to finish what it started? Confused looks came from all over the crowd and Naruto decided to tell the same explanation as he did the night before with the council. If my daughter dies, then the Kyuubi will be released to finish what it started last night. It is a mass of living chakra idiots. Death would mean the Kyuubi is free of its jail and would reform out here. Shocked looks of disbelief were seen on shinobi and civilian faces alike. She is the only thing in the way of the Kyuubi attacking you all. Why do you think Jinchuriki are made? The Bijou are immortal. They are formed by the natural energy of the world. Kami, half of you looking shocked are fucking shinobi that fucking use sealing scrolls. Murmuring broke out again and after a few minutes another civilian shouted out, then the demon should be sent far away from here. Another wave of approval. He smirked slightly before he responded, send her away so that she could potentially die, then release the Kyuubi anyway. You are basically saying you want the Kyuubi to be released? Or maybe someone from another village accepts her, trains her to hate this village, then she could use the Kyuubi's power to help destroy it? No one had any reply to that statement, and angry mutters were heard all around before the Sandaime began talking again. After he literally had to come down and glare at Naruto for wording it the way it did. Despite how effective it seemed, Naruto here is of the Uzumaki clan that were famous for their fuinjutsu. Heed his warnings. One angry shinobi then screamed out, then we should mold the demon to be the village's secret weapon. Danzo got a small smirk on his face at the outburst. He had some of his rude agents in the crowd as well after all. Naruto let out a loud groan. He handed the infant to the confused Hokage, turned towards the podium and began slamming his head against it. Fucking slam, stupid crack, dumbass, bang. The third hit caused the podium to shatter, shocking the crowd at the random man's actions. After quiet, confused mutterings, he finally responded, tell me, can anyone here tell me what a sealing scroll is? The same man that spoke nodded gruffly. It seals something away, obviously, and if I were to seal anything into that scroll, does the scroll take on any of the properties of the item sealed within? Let's say a kunai into a scroll, can that scroll be used as a kunai? Once he received the shake of the man's head. So how can you call my daughter a demon, when the beast is merely sealed into her? You should all be ashamed for dishonoring your late Yondaime Hokage's abilities, by suggesting he failed to do the sealing correctly. As for your method of training her to be a secret weapon, a ninja is only as effective if they hold loyalty to their village. Treating her as nothing but a weapon, fucking idiots, you'll be making her hate her own home. Many in the crowd didn't seem to know whether to be angry, confused, afraid or guilty by the end of Naruto's speech. Naruto was happy to note many of them were involved in some of the harsher reactions when he was younger, looked to be actually hearing the logic behind his words. The Sandaime let out an annoyed sigh before he stated, to prevent any unpleasant situations from occurring in the future, the council and I have agreed upon the following laws pertaining to Naruto Uzumaki. Any new citizens that choose to join the village at a later date, as well as telling your children under the age of 2, any future children born into our village about where the Kyuubi is held, will be dealt with harshly. This is now an S-rank law effective immediately. Officially in the records it will be stated the Kyuubi was killed when your Yondaime Hokage used a self-sacrificing jutsu. This is what all new citizens and children will be taught. Be warned, any child that knows the truth, will be interrogated and the ones responsible killed. Many in the crowd paled, especially many of the women, and those that spoke out. Few looked angry at this turn in events, which pleased Naruto greatly. One shinobi looked completely furious at this turn of events, and pulled out a kunai before charging towards the council with a war cry. Turning towards the Hokage, who still had Naruto in his aims, he gave a grim nod before holding his hand up to halt the Anbu from interfering. My wife was killed by that monster, I will have. The poor Jounin didn't get a chance to finish as Naruto had appeared in front of him and slammed his fist into the man's gut. Flying back 15 feet, the man spit out the blood that had risen from the hard blow. He ran through some hand signs quickly. Be bastard. Take this. Earth release, jagged rock spikes. Naruto was already flying through a short set of hand signs as soon as he heard earth lightning release. Static armor and blue aura surrounded Naruto and crackled loudly. As the rock spikes came at him from all directions, his armor turned them to dust as soon as they made contact. I'm not done. Fire release. Dragon flame. The Jounin took a large breath before blowing out a powerful flame shaped like a dragon's head towards Naruto. Naruto let out an annoyed sigh. This guy was meant to be a Jounin. With a sigh he did 3 quick hand signs and called out his technique water style. Water shock wave. Naruto spewed out a massive wave of water that completely snuffed out the fire. The Jounin only had time to have his eyes widen in surprise before he felt something impact him hard underside his jaw, sending him skyward. Murmurs broke out between the higher-ranked shinobi when Naruto appeared behind the skyward Jounin. Troublesome, he even knows taijutsu unique to Konoha. Who is this guy? One shadow user muttered quietly. Kagebyo. Naruto whispered into the Jounin's ear, just before he kneed the man in the spine. As the force pushed the Jounin forward, Naruto grabbed his right shoulder with his left hand and pulled, ceasing the extra momentum and flipping the man over, just as he realized a vicious backhand. Naruto reappeared above him and punched him 3 times in the torso, pushing him towards the ground. The Jounin hit the ground on his back hard and let out a pained yell, only to widen his eyes as he saw Naruto fast approaching. Dragon stomp. Naruto bellowed as he landed feet first into the man's gut, causing him to cough out blood before losing consciousness. Naruto looked around at the gaping crowd with a cold expression. The next person who calls my daughter a demon within my earshot, and I warn you, I have very good hearing, will end up in hospital just like him. Repeat offenders really won't like the result. I just explained my daughter is not the Kyuubi. If you insist on calling her that in my presence, I'll show you just how demonic someone can be. I am a shinobi after all. Then he smiled in a very sadistic way with a hint of killing intent before he vanished and reappeared next to the Hokage, taking Naruto off the wide-eyed Hokage. One random other Jounin yelled out, holy shit, that was pure speed and he has clearly mastered 2 elements. Murmurs broke out at that statement throughout the crowds as Naruto scratched his head nervously with a goofy grin at the Hokage. A purple-haired 12-year-old got a sadistic grin on her face as she gazed at the bleeding man on the ground. Medics were doing what field work they could, but didn't attempt to move him as they wished to stay until the end of the announcement. An Anbu shunshined in front of the medics, then shunshined the man to the hospital, one doctor following suit. Hiruzen made a note of that doctor. He also paid attention to the young purple-haired girl, as people backed away after recognizing who she was. Once Mi began cackling and looking up at Naruto with a gleam in her eye. Well, everyone backed off, all except for one girl with long black hair and red eyes with spirals. Naruko had awoken when she was taken by Naruto, and she looked around at all the people curiously, before she focused on the face she remembers most and blinked. Naruto now noticed she was awake, and narrowed his eyes. Don't you dare, suddenly remembering that she didn't fill her nappy an hour ago. Tsum, who had heard this, began to chuckle and he sent her a playful glare. Turning back to the infant he was now holding away from his body, while having a staring contest with her. Hiruzen, who was about to state the next statement, turned to see what had the usually aggressive Tsum chuckling and began to as well. Payback's a bitch in his mind. Any legendary shinobi panics in the face of their infant child if she did what he hoped she would. Naruto seemed destined to lose the staring contest as a familiar scent entered his nose and he cried out loudly, "No, how could you do this to me, Naruko-chan?" And in public too, with a resigned sigh, he pulled out a scroll that with a small amount of chakra brought out a table with a few diapers and wipes, and he got to work ignoring those watching him. Many in the crowd were looking on in shock at the scene playing out in front of them, most of them wives that were glaring at their husbands, as they always refused to change the diapers, and yet the so-called demon's father was doing it for his so-called Kyuubi daughter. Once he had finished putting on a new diaper, Naruto pulled out a second scroll that brought out a bottle of baby formula. He put Naruko back into her harness. Then Naruto glared at the full diaper and got another sadistic grin on his face. He tossed it hard up into the air and began a set of hand signs ending in tiger. Fire release. Raging Phoenix. A massive ball 3 times the size of an average great fireball came out of the flame from Naruto's mouth. The ball then burst open and a massive fiery bird shot up until it hit the diaper and then exploded into a massive fiery inferno 100 meters above the crowd. Many Uchiha and Hyuga were watching the attack in surprise, 1 for the amount of chakra and 2 how powerful the attack was. The young man didn't even look winded from the attack either. Others were gaping as he had just demonstrated 3 high-level attacks of different elemental affinities as if it were nothing. The civilians were simply shitting themselves. He then proceeded to seal the table away, began to feed Naruto. We win again, huh Naruto? No demonic spawn affecting out noses this day, Naruto stated happily, seemingly oblivious to the crowds gawking at him for his choice of words over a full diaper. Wondering why it was so silent, Naruto looked up and around, taking note of the gaping faces, scratched the back of his head with his free hand with his trademark grin on his face. Hee. Might have overdone that, huh? Even the Sandame looked on in surprise, considering the size and shape manipulation requires very good elemental manipulation. For someone so young to do it was very impressive. Yes, well, anyway. Maybe just a bit overkill, Naruto. Anyway, now for the final piece of news. The crowd was still staring at the strange Uzumaki duo, wondering just how they could be so strange, yet act so normal at the same time. The council has agreed. Now we have 2 living members of the Uzumaki clan in our village, to make them an official member of said council in 6 months' time. With Naruto as head of the clan, there were surprisingly no angry outbursts this time, as many were scared of the fact Naruto just did such a powerful attack on a diaper and literally completely outclassed one of their jounin. Just what would he do to them? Even the bravest shinobi that were thinking of trying their luck at getting the girl, or disputing his right to join the council, were squashed when they saw the attack. Now for the final important bit of news, to prove Naruto is worthy of the rank of elite jounin and head of his new clan. I have asked my former student Jiraiya to personally test him in public within the week. Once he arrives, a notice will be sent out to any who wish to witness the battle. For now I hope you'll all make the new Uzumaki clan feel at home in our village. Then he stepped off the podium. Naruto, could you come to my office? With a nod of assent, Naruto spared a look over the gathered crowd once more. Before turning to follow the Hokage, Naruto had gone back to sleep. His sensitive hearing picked up Shikaku mutter troublesome. He did that attack without really trying. Once in the Hokage's office he sat down, and Naruto decided it was time to wake up. The infant decided to look around everywhere. Was it really necessary to use that fire attack on a diaper, Naruto? The shinobi side at least may not take you seriously. Naruto looked the Hokage in the eye and stated as seriously as he could. Well, first off, I beat a jounin level ninja if his skill level is the same as I've seen in my travels with ease, using chakra costly lightning and water jutsu. The overkill fire jutsu was to show I can use 3 chakra costly jutsu that can defend and attack without even looking spent. As for the diaper, you have had children, Gigi. What do you think? Yes, it was. The old man let out a loud laugh at the answer before he stated, I thought that might have been the reason, but I am curious why you didn't show you can use all 5 no matter. I can't blame you for the diaper. I think the same way about paperwork. Anyway, I think you should be fine with the villagers. With the display of power you have frightened off many who would harm Naruko. Plus you have convinced many women she is not the demon, with how gentle you were changing her diaper. That will go far in convincing their husbands as well. Naruto chuckled and asked, well, glad it turned out alright. By the way, have you got a list of people that could look after Naruko in the future? With a sigh the old man nodded. There are a few, but unfortunately there are too few who could look at Naruko at least neutrally so soon after the attack. If you give it a few months, I'm sure more will be willing and trustworthy. Passing over a list to Naruto, these are their bios and brief backgrounds. Naruto took the file and began flicking through them. Rin Hazuki, suppose because of her link to Minato? Honestly, with Rin alive, it could be a very good option. If it were his Kakashi, he would have recommended him without a doubt, but this Kakashi he didn't at all. Obito was part of a major clan so couldn't be chosen either, even though Naruto thought he would be perfect for the role. Another nod before Hiruzen added, Sum was friends with Rin's mother. The Inuzuka clan have unofficially been keeping an eye on Rin over the years. Plus Sum has given birth to a son recently. I have no doubt that Rin would be chosen as a babysitter for him, especially if Sum were to learn that you want Rin to babysit Naruko. It would also give young Naruko someone her age to play with. Naruto picked up the insinuation. Clearly the Hokage saw Sum's interest in him the previous night. Rin actually quit her ninja career after an incident during an assault during the war. She has been helping out at the hospital when she can, but Sum has stated she is concerned for the girl. I personally believe helping you with Naruko may help her to heal, maybe even convince her to return to duty eventually. Naruto sat back and thought. This incident was probably the reason why Obito didn't die here like in his own time. With Rin leaving the shinobi forces, she never got the mission that ended her life either. She is Minato's former student, and I know they would have trusted her to help out with Naruko. Unlike Kakashi, I also felt no ill will from her. She would be perfect for looking after Naruko. I'm sure Minato would appreciate me trying to help her heal as well. Naruto then blinked as memories floated through his mind. Kiba was a strong friend to him in their last life. He was one that believed strongly in loyalty during their academy years and never treated him unfairly. Perhaps having him grow up with Naruko would be a good thing, especially since the Inuzuka have very similar abilities to a Jinchuriki. Dismissing the thoughts, he went to the next one and his eyes widened. Kurenai Yuhi, Chunin with impressive ability in Genjutsu. She has recently taken it upon herself to help out another in that list who was abandoned when my traitorous student deserted the village. Despite not knowing the girl and the rumors and the way the villagers treat her, Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Orochimaru's student, did that mean who he thought it meant? Orochimaru, yes, I've heard some stories of his activities. Still, to blame the student for his actions, despite how she may have felt, as I stated earlier. Fucking dumbass. Looking at the next name, his eyes narrowed in thought. Anko Mitarashi, The woman was traumatized, yes. But she is also someone who could definitely be considered the most suitable candidate. After all, who better to help raise his daughter unbiased? Naruto was worried about what he may train Naruko in, though. She was very sadistic in his time. That sadistic kunoichi Anko Mitarashi. When he saw the Hokage's hard eyes, he let out a sigh. Orochimaru, one of the legendary 3 Konoha ninja marked as the Sannin after losing a duel against Hanzo the Salamander, was one of the candidates for the Yondaime Hokage position, but you felt something amiss. Your feelings proved to be correct when you discovered hidden labs in the village after multiple infants and villagers continued to vanish. He was believed to be researching the Mokutan ability of the Shodaime Hokage. Hiruzen was surprised and wondered just how much Minato had told the young man in front of him. Yes, he marked his apprentice Anko with a cursed seal of heaven before he fled the village. Since you are an Uzumaki, I was hoping at the very least you could take a look at it at some point. Hopefully, with your knowledge, plus any luck, we could see if it's possible to be removed. Both Jiraiya, Kushina, Minato and I could only lower its effects on her. Naruto let out a sigh knowing he couldn't deny he wanted to figure out how to remove it. In a small part of his brain he blamed that curse mark for many problems in his own past. If he could remove it, could fix many problems. Did Orochimaru leave any notes on the seal's design? Naruto asked, knowing it was unlikely. With the notes he had no doubt Erosenin could have removed it. The aged Hokage shook his head sadly to confirm that fact. Unfortunately, that was the problem that we faced. All that could be done is add another detailed seal to prevent its influencing effects. Naruto scratched the back of his head in thought. Jiraiya had taught him quite a bit in seals during their 3 years away from the village. Apparently some Kyumonin had found one of Orochimaru's bases on a mission and had got some early notes on the design. B had told him in detail about it, since Naruto wasn't sure if Sasuke was still infected with it at the time. The still naive Naruto, though he might be able to neutralize its effects when they would inevitably face off. I'll have a look and do what I can. Naruto went through the rest of the folder, clanless ninja that he didn't really trust or know enough to judge. He quickly found that only shinobi were chosen, and only those that are orphans or clanless. With a sigh he stated, I'll have to meet them myself to judge them, but I'd say the most qualified are Rin, Anko and Kurenai Hokagejiji. I assume you didn't include Mikoto because of her link to the Uchiha? Interesting choices, Naruto, and yes, that is correct. The other clans would no doubt go, excuse the language apes hit, if they were to hear a wife of a clan head had access to the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Naruto merely nodded before Hiruzen flared his chakra, causing 3 Umbu to appear before him. Bring me Rin Hazuki, Anko Mitarashi and Kurenai Yahi. The Umbu all bowed before Shun Shining to complete their tasks. Is there any particular reason for such different women, Naruto? Question 1 Hokagejiji. How do the villagers treat Anko since your student's desertion? Not expecting the question, he looked out sadly out the window. I suppose she is treated much like a Jinchuriki in many ways. The apartment building she stays at has been vandalized often, hot water gets cut off. Few places serve her and many villagers and shinobi give her distrustful gazes or harsh comments wherever she goes. Naruto briefly wondered if that was the case why she never tried to help him. He quickly dismissed the idea since that would have only further ostracized her from the villagers, thus losing any respect she had gained with the shinobi forces. That is the main reason I thought her suitable. Kurenai won me over after how she treats Anko. Rin, I've already stated. A knock on the door stopped the conversation from going further. A young purple-haired girl entered and Naruto was shocked at how young she looked. Anko couldn't have been older than him when he met her in his world. Hey old man, what did you want? I was about to go get some dango, so it better be some important mission, or I'm going to Cass. Noticing Naruto, she got a sadistic grin that he blinked curiously at. Oh, my new favorite senpai. Say senpai, want to hang out today? I'll even let you buy me some dango, since I'm in such a good mood right now. What you say? Before he could answer, Rin entered the office. She sent Naruto a polite bow before noticing Anko and standing at attention. Naruto was glad she didn't seem to hold any grudges towards the girl like the rest of the village apparently did. Hokage-sama, you called me? Naruto, Anko. Anko seemed surprised she wasn't called a name, and eyed the newcomer curiously. She was sure she knew the girl from somewhere but couldn't pull the name out at the moment. Kurenai then came in red-faced during the moment, effectively ending it. Before anyone could speak, Kurenai hissed, Hokage-sama, that Umbu is a pervert. He appeared in my bath, Anko? What are you doing here? Anko got a big grin on her face. Naruto-senpai is going to buy me some dango. Kurenai, said girl, turned a glare to Naruto before processing the words her friend spoke. Her eyes widened in surprise and eyed Naruto curiously. I actually wanted all 3 of you to be here. That caught all 3 girls' attention. He continued, as I'm an elite jounin. Well, once my probation is over anyway, I'm going to need someone to look after Naruko here when I get called out on long-term missions. After going through your files, both Hokage-sama and I decided you 3 will be the best for the job. Getting understandable looks from Rin and Kurenai. Anko, however, looked completely baffled. Anko responded first, and me? If you've seen my file, why would you want me near your daughter? Naruto just grinned before he ruffled her hair, causing her to pout. She hated when people did that to her. It made her feel like a child. Plus Orochimaru used to do it to her. The only reason she didn't outright become hostile was because she thought Naruto was cool. Why wouldn't I? For one, you can relate to how my daughter will be treated by the villagers, despite what was stated at the announcement. 2, you won't treat her in the same fashion as you know how it feels personally. Plus it gives you a place to go whenever it gets too much. Hell, we got a spare bedroom if you want it. Her eyes got big and she stuttered out, "Ah, really?" He nodded and she gave him a genuine smile that instantly turned sadistic. "If I take the job, will I get dango?" He frowned at her. "I'll think about it. Don't go putting those habits on Naruko. She will love ramen, not dango." Enko looked completely insulted by that statement. Ramen has nothing on dango. How can you suggest such a thing? Blasphemy. Insulting ramen, he stated with a deep frown. Seriously, Tucci and Ayam were the few people who treated him normally when he grew up. Thus they would be part of Naruko's life as well. He felt he owed them that much. But thinking in more detail, he realized that Enko probably felt the same about the dango place. They might be the only place she had found that served her fairly. Enko then noticed Naruko, who was looking at her with big curious eyes. "I will not allow you to taint such a pure innocent soul with such evil thoughts such as that, senpai. You are a threat to." "Okay, Naruto, why were we chosen?" Kurenai stated, interrupting their banter and causing Naruto to focus on the task at hand, scratching the back of his head and smiling sheepishly at the twitching group. "Well, I think you'd be a good role model for my daughter. She'll need one in her life since I can get a little dramatic, as you just saw. Plus, from what I hear, you see the whole picture and don't judge based on a few opinions." Kurenai saw him look back at Enko, who was pouting and looking away before nodding and understanding. "Then I accept, Naruto." He then turned to Rin, who was staring at him intently. "As for you, Rin, both Minato and Kushina here spoke highly of you. I have no doubt you are capable of the task. He cherished his students greatly, and I would be honored if you would watch out for my daughter, as she grows to become a great kunoichi one day." "I don't understand. What could I offer?" It was a statement, not a question, and he chuckled. "Well, for one, you are a medical ninja." At least where he saw her flinch when he stated she was a ninja, meaning you were trained to look after a young child. "But the main reason is if Minato and Kushina lived, they would have wanted you to be the one they would have recommended." "I have no doubt on that." He saw Rin had tears in her eyes and nodded her head in acceptance of his reasoning. Naruto had a kind smile on his face in her direction that turned to horror. Now he noticed Enko in front of him whispering to Naruko, "Don't worry, Naruko. I'll make sure you're safe from that evil logic your daddy has." "Yes, I will." "And oh, stay back." Before he jumped back to the corner of the room, eyeing Enko, who still had that sadistic grin on her face. He noted Rin bowed and she stated, "If Kushina and Sensei trusted you, I would be honored to watch Naruto." With a sigh after watching the interactions of the four people in his office, Hiruzen stated, "All right, since that's done with, until Naruto's probation ends you will not be needed. Rin, I will need you in the hospital to help if you are willing. Kurenai, Enko, you will both be needed for missions as all other high-ranking officers will be. But once the probation is over, Rin, you will be the main person on call to look after Naruko. Enko, will you be moving into the Uzumaki compound then?" Naruto's eyes widened in horror, as he suddenly remembered he did indeed promise. Enko seemed to see this, and despite her inner turmoil about if he rejected his previous statement, she grinned before she chirped happily, "Yep. Plus senpai will take me out to Dango to celebrate too," Naruto announced loudly. "Ramen and dango on me. You are all welcome to come so we can try to get to know each other. My treat as a thank you for accepting my request. I'll look at expanding the property too, since there's plenty of land so you guys can stay over if you wish in a few years. I'll also play with the seal on the gate, see if I can somehow key you guys into it, since it will be pointless if I go on a mission and you're trapped inside." What if Juubi Naruto goes to an alternate dimension? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.